Good evening. Hello, everyone. Mark, hello. Brennelt, moin. Zishke, moin, moin as well. Let's see who else we've got here. Danny, maybe later said. Pilot David, moin, moin. And Zishke's writing, he's got
Welcome
his last...
aboard the Captain Black Box Twitch channel subscriber
last,
experience. Could new
ATPL
subscribers
tests
please
coming up.
make your
Yeah,
way
all
to
the
the
best for
first
that.
class cabin, where
Man,
complimentary
it's
drinks,
a tiring
snacks, and premium
process, isn't
flight
it?
entertainment will be
ATPL
served.
theory.
Thank you.
There's so much stuff to learn. And Aviator 320, hello to you, coming in with a tier 1 30 months Aviator. Thanks so much for your support. I hope you're doing well. Yeah, so welcome everyone. As you can see from the top title there, we are doing non-normal ops. There's no specific routings for today. And we're going to use the Toliss and the FENIX. But it all will be in one stream. The reason for this is I've got a 2-day simulator or half-yearly check event. I'll talk a little bit about how this is being done these days. Hey Kazipaya, how you doing? And you know, for me, I don't know, if I go and have a look at my career, and I've been flying for, let's see, it's kind of interesting. I can't name it off the top of my head how long I've been flying. So 28 years I've been flying officially under a contract as an airline pilot. So 28 years, and each year I have at least 4 missions, each lasting 4 hours in the simulator, and that is just excluding all of the rest of the training with type ratings and so on. But just for the check rides in the simulator, I've had 112. So 112 check flights, each lasting 4 hours. That's 448 hours of check situations in a simulator. It's Danzy. Hey, buddy. Do you mind if I share the Matt Davis Memorial Flight Donation link? No, it's all fine. Hang on. Let me just see if I can permit you.
Welcome aboard the Captain Black Box Twitch channel subscriber experience.
Let's see. So
Could new subscribers please make your way to the first class cabin, where complimentary drinks, snacks, and premium flight entertainment will be served.
So there we go. Danny
you.
or Dancy, you can post the link now.
Or had now been amazing 69 months, party popper.
Thank you so much, Spreadalt, for the 69 months. My God, it's a long time, isn't it? Vielen Dank, Brennelt. Thanks for the continued support, and you have been a huge supporter of this channel, Brennelt, all these years. And thank you as well for your friendship, Brennelt. Hope it continues for many more years. And Nick Fuchs coming in with 14 months on YouTube as well. Nick, thank you for your support. I'm not sure if the jingle played, but I saw the announcement there. Andreas, hello to you. And Voyager, moin, yeah. So there's the link, guys. Saturday. Unfortunately, I'm not home Saturday, so I can't take place. But anybody that wants to support the Matt Davis flight on Saturday, there's a link just been posted. Hey, Lilienthal, moin. Wie geht's dir? So I was just saying that that twice a year I have to go through a simulator check ride, and that consists of 2 days now. So they follow each other. So it's an event now. It's called an EBT. So it's a change from the previous kind of very repetitive check events. So for example, up to about 4 years ago, I think, the first day of check flight in the simulator always consisted of the pretty much the same setup. So you did a RTO, so rejected takeoff in low-vis operations. Then you did a takeoff low-vis. You did an approach low-vis with a go-around because of system failure. You did a landing. Yeah, exactly. So Brennelt, yeah, about 10 German time. Yeah, so 2000 UTC, exactly. And then there was an engine failure, engine out pattern, single engine go-around, single engine landing. Then you did some other topics like electric failures or, emergency descent, that sort of stuff. So it was very repetitive, and there wasn't really... It was a very strict check environment, of course, but it was always the same stuff. So at some point, things changed because of accidents that happen in real life, and then the authorities suddenly thinking that maybe the way pilots are trained and how pilots keep current and refreshed regarding their flying abilities, they changed the way they now dictate the check flights. So they've gone to this new format, which consists a lot more now of what we call line-oriented flight training, so LOFT missions. And that means you have a to B scenario, which might start at an airport and you take off. Not necessarily, though. Hey, Yoda, how you doing? So it can also happen that you start en route somewhere, and then you would have some sort of failure or motor failures, but very kind of adapted to the real world. So your instructor will also play the purser, ATC, and whoever else is interacting with you then in flight. Looking back at my career, when I was a first officer, my attitude was such that, and I'm pretty sure that all first officers have that attitude. You want to be knowledgeable, and you want to be as supportive as you can be to your captain. So one thing you have to realize that these aircraft, while we fly them here in the simulator, in a kind of one pilot environment, in the real world, the aircraft is very complicated, and it's a jet. It goes very, very, very fast. So you need to have two pilots that can distribute the workload. And as we found out already, doing shared flight here on the stream, and people getting into shared flight, it's difficult to kind of adapt to a two-pilot environment. Trying to get things coordinated, who's doing what, who's saying, what in a certain order, or what commands are being given. Hey, Dr. Fred. And so the lofts, so the line-oriented flight training events, are actually there to train both sides, so pilot, the co-pilot, and the captain side. And each, of course, has their own duties. So not only pilot flying or pilot monitoring, but also captain and co-pilot. So it's CM1, CM2. And a good way to work together, obviously, is have an open communication style. So that means for the captain, for example, that he asks open questions. He tries to get as much input from any crew member that is available. So not just the co-pilot, but maybe a senior first officer or the purser, cabin crew. And, be open-minded, get as much info as possible. In the end, it's the captain that has to make the final decision. But a good captain will always listen to any input.
Welcome aboard the Captain Black Box Duo Channel experience. Could new subscribers please make their way to the first class cabin, where complimentary drinks, snacks, and premium flight infotainment will be served. Thank you.
Pay a lot. Thank you so much for the
Thank
support.
you for the awesome content.
And thank you for your awesome support. That's really kind. Thank you so much. Yeah, so like I said, when I was a first officer, my first goal was obviously to be as supportive as possible to the captain, without, of course, taking away command.
Twitch channel
that's something
experience.
that the very old, experienced
please make your way to the
first officers
cabin,
have to be careful with.
Drinks, snacks, and premium flight entertainment will be served.
And GameStar14 also coming in with a new sub. That's 30 months from GameStar. Thank you so much. Hello, Philip. How are you doing? Thank you for the amazing support again. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, so, for the first officer, you have a constellation sometimes where, let's say, the captain has just finished his training and became a captain. And right now we actually have lots of new captains. And then you have a first officer that has been maybe flying, let's say the A320 for over 10 years. So there's a huge discrepancy in the event of experience, or if you look at experience. So while the captain will have more overall life flying experience regarding the aircraft, regarding the destinations, etc., the first officer will be a lot more experienced on that type at that point. But again, it's just not allowed to have the first officer then suddenly take away command from the captain. So the first officer has to be aware of that. And again, try giving as many good inputs as possible at the right time, which is also sometimes difficult to do. But again, let the captain be the one who makes the final decisions. Hey Alpha, if there is a situation where the first officer doesn't like the decision that the captain makes, well, he'll speak up. He will say, Captain, sorry, but I disagree. I think your suggestion or your decision is actually unsafer than my suggestion. Please reconsider. Well, not even say please, just say, you may want to reconsider my input, and I strongly suggest this and this and this. But again, it's sometimes difficult because I've had that situation in the simulator as well, several times where I disagree with the inputs from my first officer, and I hate to overrule my first officer, but sometimes that just happens, and I will try to explain as much, and I try to lay out my concept and my ideas, and if I have a different solution to everything, then my first officer, then that's just the way it is, and I expect my first officer then to be professional enough to still support me, even though he may think or she may think that I'm not on the best path. The biggest issue, of course, is safety, so it has to be safe. It may not be the most elegant outcome, and I think most of the time the disagreement will not be completely safety relevant. It will be more relevant regarding the choice of airport that you're flying to, and maybe, let's say the maintenance support you may get at this and this airport, or the passenger support you may get at this airport. But again, in the end, it's the captain that makes the final decision. For me as a captain, of course, one issue is that I don't want to look stupid, right? So while it's difficult to really know everything and to really keep a high level of knowledge and a high level of proficiency, it's something, of course, that is expected of captains. So that's why I do practice, and that's why I do revise procedures, etc., etc. And for me, one thing that has been so fascinating is the development of the flight simulators. And again, even though I'm advertising for an app, which you all know is the FSI panel, but we'll go and do the first exercise in a minute, and you'll see that the FSI panel, if you know how to program things, is actually really, really good in creating your own scenarios. Right, got first question coming in. Mark, has an instructor ever given you a scenario completely away from the books to test your reasoning? Oh, yes, of course. So, that's a good question, Mark. So, how much do we know on what's going to happen? So, we get a briefing package. So, I'll tell you that, for example, we've got one for both days. So, EBT1, the first day, it will give us a rough outline. For example, evaluation, you'll be starting at Milano Malpensa. You'll do your normal FMS programming, your briefings, pushback. And then on the simulated flight from Milano Malpensa to Frankfurt, you will have a flight control issue. And you will be monitored regarding your go-around management. All right. That's what I'm being told. So it's a flight control malfunction, and we're going to have to manage go-around management. That's all the info as I get. Now, the instructor has several different possibilities of giving you a failure. So it's going to be in the arena of flight controls, but as we know, flight controls is a huge topic. It covers many things, all right? Not just flaps or slats. It covers elevators, ailerons, spoilers, trim. So again, even though you know roughly the area and you know which airport you're flying from and to, there's still many options that the instructor has. So you don't know everything what's going to happen. And also, that's the thing, but what they change over the years. So let's say you fly along with a co-pilot, and he's saying, hey, I've got my check ride coming up next week. Did you already have the new check ride? And they'd say, yeah, I just had it about 2 weeks ago. And then I'll say, okay, so what scenario did they have? And he'll tell me, well, I had this and this. Well, that doesn't mean that I'm going to have the same. Hey, Musculazione, doing well. How are you doing? So that's, of course, something different. And the second thing is, Mark, so usually at the end of our session, depending on how quickly we get through, there may be still some 20 minutes left over. And normally the instructor will then ask, hey, is there anything you would like to practice? And, if there's anything you're unhappy with, you'll say, okay, I want to practice this and this again, right? Emergency descent or an engine failure or something. But if you say, no, you know what, tell you what, you think of something and, just see how we do. And so the instructors, they have very interesting scenarios at hand to really get you sweating. Now, of course, they don't want you to crash, right? So contrary to what Bruno, gives me for scenarios, or some lovely people here give me, think of some really crazy scenarios. No, they don't want, the instructor doesn't want you to crash, but he wants to surprise you and maybe startle you a little bit so that you understand how to cope with these situations, and then find a solution. So they're not completely difficult in that sense, but they will definitely challenge you. Have you ever had a training situation which you were not able to manage? Good question, Brennel. Let me think back. Yes, so there was one where, for, let's say, not the complete exercise, but initially I was so stressed and I was so tunnel visioned that I just couldn't manage to find a solution myself. So I had my first officer who was very good and very experienced, and then actually his input kind of broke the ice. And I thought, oh, yes, of course. Yeah, fantastic. Right, let's do this and this. So it can happen. And that's why you train, and that's why you have to be put in situations sometimes where you feel completely uncomfortable. Because let's put it this way, it doesn't make sense to get scenarios which are easy to handle and you don't really have, you don't take anything away from it. So a good instructor will be able to balance the scenario where you will be stressed and you will have, certain bodily reactions like tunnel vision, or, even just little panic, like, oh my God, what's going on, and confusion. But again, it's there to get you out, and you find it, kind of get a toolbox where you find the right tool for the right situation. Yeah, absolutely, Brendel. I totally agree. And I've been here. I've said it many times here on the stream. I am at the current stage, the current way we are flying these aircraft. Having a single pilot concept is absolutely ludicrous in these aircraft that we have. Now, going forward, we know there will be technology upgrades and there will be new systems being installed, which will make flying a lot, a lot easier or even safer to a certain regard, where maybe then one pilot will be safe. All right, but again, we're not there yet, and we'll see how it goes forward. Yeah, ChatGPT. Well, I mean, you know, there's people obviously that are very fond of it, and they think that's the big future. I don't know. I'm not such a technology nerd that I would completely understand what ChatGPT is and what it does, etc., etc. So exactly, Mark. It's like what's that, right? So, but who knows? Again, technology going forward will change rapidly. And then it's going to be dependent on the acceptance from passengers to see, what can be done. Good. Okay, guys. So the first scenario that we're going to do, we're going to put ourselves over the Alps somewhere. I think just past Zurich, and we're going to run into an issue. Actually, it's going to be several issues. Now, I want to make sure that everyone understands this is just for demonstrating purposes, right? This is just to give you an idea what kind of scenarios we go through. This is not the perfect solution that I'm going to be able to present, simply because I have to do this on my own. Things sometimes get extremely busy, especially when you have a time-critical situation. For me, single pilot, I just don't have that normal setup where I can distribute workload and have someone help me out. Maybe at some point in half a year's time, when we have shared flight, we can actually do a bit of a different demonstration where we can have some complex abnormals and then have two pilots and handle it like in the real aircraft. Hey Arnie, have you ever, as a captain, decided according to? Yes, I have, Arnie. Absolutely, and I think personally, that's what makes a good captain. It's a captain who is a good leader, however, is able to take in suggestions and solutions from other crew members, and actually reconsider their own decision if I think that it's actually better than my suggestion. And who says that, even though I'm the captain, but who says I always know the best answer? I don't. I sometimes, even with a great level of experience, I sometimes may go down the wrong path. And then it's a good thing that we have someone else in the flight deck who has a different suggestion. Now, normally, what I will do, and that's how we are trained, and we know we have our strict format where we first aviate, navigate, communicate. That's always first. There's no point in worrying about solution finding if you crash the aircraft beforehand. So aviate, navigate, communicate. That's the first thing to do. That's always top priority. However, once we have handled the technical aspect, i.e. we've gone through the checklist, and we get to, we finish the status page here in the A320, then we come to the fact-finding, the options gathering, and then, we make a decision, we execute that decision, and then we always recheck our decision as we go along. Now, sometimes I will have a very quick solution in my mind. Hello, Holger, how you doing? I'll have a very quick solution in my mind because I may have seen that issue before, and I've got a solution. Now, however, before I say anything to the first officer or any other crew member, I will ask my first officer, hey, okay, so I have a solution for me, but I'm keen to hear what your solution is. So I'll ask the first officer, and then hopefully he'll have some good inputs. And believe it or not, sometimes he will or she will say something that I didn't consider. Right? And that's perfectly fine. All right, we're humans, and the important thing is that together as a team, right, we actually then find a good solution, a safe solution, and then execute that solution. Well, Pod, I mean, hopefully not. Hopefully that doesn't happen in the future with aircraft. But yeah, so Brennell, I wouldn't say it happens often, but it can happen. Now I'll give you another example. I've had a situation in the simulator where we had I think I told a story already some time back. We had a very complex abnormal, and I'll give you an idea. So our instructor, and that was actually a free style situation, so it wasn't announced previously. And hey Toto. Yeah, Toto, I'm completely on your page with that. So it's so difficult though to project that to the general public, because the younger generation is now growing up with even more automation that we had, and going forward, we'll have more and more automation, cars that drive on their own and so on, these sort of things. So or maybe people that don't care about technology, and they say someone else is responsible for making sure that it's safe, right? I'm just going to sit in the aircraft. Everything will be fine. Yeah. So, Toto, like I said, I'm with you on that. So, hey Nick, hope you got home well, Nick. It was lovely meeting you here in Bremen, and I hope you had a good time and you got home safely. And I hope you didn't miss your flight. Okay, good. So we had a situation where it was an electric abnormal, and the thing was, the first thing that failed was the AC bus 1. So that was pretty straightforward. The AC bus 1 failed, and of course there are certain things that are supplied by AC bus 1, and those failed. The ECAM noticed it correctly, and the ECAM gave us all the necessary checklist points to handle that abnormal. Then a couple of months later, we got some more failures, electric failures. However, there was no checklist. It just gave us failed systems, right? So in the status, it said lots of failed systems with number 2 system. So it was kind of weird. And I had a suspicion that it's a partial bus failure. Now, I've seen it before in the simulator. The first officer, who was fairly new to the aircraft, didn't know that. So, as we always do with an electric abnormal, once we've handled the ECAM, we get to the status, we say stop ECAM, and we'll try to look into the fact, can we have some resets, for example, electric resets, or seat circuit breaker reset, whatever, push button reset. And I asked my first officer to check the circuit breakers. Now he grabbed the spotlight, and just Nick said, Nick safely home. Wasn't Bremen? Yeah, it is. Bremen is a lovely city. Yeah, love it. Thanks so much. Fantastic. Papa Charlie, hello to you as well. Yeah, so he stayed in his seat, just turned around, and put the flashlight onto the panel, and he said, only looked at it a couple of seconds. He said, no, all good. All circuit breakers are in. As a matter of fact, from my point of view, I actually saw a circuit breaker being popped here, right, and was this one there, and you can see bus 2, that was popped, and that's the AC bus, one of the AC bus 2. The problem is that this circuit breaker is not monitored. If it were, it would have a green color, but since it doesn't, it's not monitored. And so I told him, you know what, I can actually see a circuit breaker being popped from my side. Have a look again, please. And so he looked again and said, oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, down here it's popped. And so I said, okay, what does it say? And he said, it says bus 2. I said, okay, thank you. Anything else? And what I didn't think of back then was there's actually more circuit breakers here. Right, and you can only see them if you move the seat. So you have to physically get out of your seat and check these as well. There was a little pop there, and it could have helped us obviously with the troubleshooting. Now, so what was my issue then? I thought, okay, so it's probably a partial bus failure of AC bus 2, which wasn't monitored by the ECAM. And so I said to him, do you have any ideas? Any suggestions? And he said, well, circuit breakers popped, so AC2. I said, yeah, okay, so that explains a couple of, failures that we have. Anything else? And he said, no, I'm not really. Okay, I said, all right, fine. So I think it's a partial. So because he didn't have any more inputs, I then said, okay, so here's my thinking. I think we have a partial bus failure. So how about we look into the EFB and look at the enhanced checklist. So we have a checklist in the books which actually doesn't only have the ECAM or the checklist actions. It actually has some extra info below those actions. It'll tell you why you have to do a certain reset or why that has failed. So you can gain some very good inputs from that. So we got through that, and in the enhanced checklist we actually had the status being shown as well, and it was literally one-to-one copy of what we had. So it was like 80% of all of the AC2 systems failed. So now comes the next issue. So we finished the ECAM, right? We said ECAM actions completed, cleared the status. And then, of course, the next thing to do is fact-finding. Hey, Lee, good evening. So one of the fact findings is what landing distance you require. So our EFB has, just like here in the EFB of the FENIX, we can actually insert failures. Hello, MCK. So if we go to electrical failures, we can then select certain buses or certain failures. And the layout that we have is a bit different. A777 is a bit different to what we have here. So each of us have to calculate the landing distance requirements separately and then come together and see if they match. So AC bus 1, that's the only ECAM message we had, right? So AC bus 2 didn't match, right? So I said, you know what? It's going to be an AMA ELEC config, because AC bus 1, AC bus 2 failure will give you pretty much the failed systems of an AMA config abnormal. So I took that. And so I think requirement was like 2,500 meters for the landing, because there's a lot of systems that fail, including anti-skid, etc., etc. So I had 2,500 or 2,700 meters, and then my first officer had a completely different result. And so I said, okay, so what did you calculate with? And he said, well, AC bus 1 failure. I said, yeah, but we discussed that most of the AC bus 2 failure is also failed. And then he argued, well, but it's not on the ECAM. And you see the kind of the issue that I get is like, okay, I understand your point, but we've just talked about it. We realized that a lot of systems from number 2 have failed, right? So yeah, exactly. So the AC bus 1 failed. Yeah, you weren't here right at the beginning. So AC bus 1 failed and completely covered by the ECAM, and the AC bus 2 failed because it was a partial. Well, it got a circuit breaker popped down here, another one behind here, and so we had a partial non-monitored failure of AC bus 2 of AC bus 2. So I said, okay, so I disagree with you, I'm sorry, but what would you say if we calculate with EMA config? And he wasn't happy with that. He said, well, but that's going to be a lot more than maybe what we actually need. And I said, well, it doesn't matter because it's going to be on the safe side. Right? And so he was kind of, saying, okay, all right, but I could feel he wasn't happy with that. Now things became somewhat dynamic because we're flying A to B. And then, as we found our facts of weather, so Cat 1 minimas, 2,007 meters minimum. So we had airports around us like, let's say, Hanover. Further up north, we had Hamburg. Further to the east, we had Berlin. And then back from where we came from, we had Frankfurt. So we had to find a airport to divert to. And so I asked him, okay, so I have my own personal airport that I want to fly to. And that was Hanover, because that was like 40 miles away from us. And we were at like 25,000 feet or so. And I asked him, I said, okay, so what airport are you suggesting? He said, well, Hamburg. And I said, why? I said, well, that's where we plan to go anyways. And I said, well, no, I would rather go to Hanover. And he said, why? He said, well, because we have a huge electrical issue. So we have AC bus 1 failed, and we have AC bus 2 circuit breaker popped. Who knows if there's anything smoldering or burning somewhere in the E&E compartment, which will make things worse going forward. And when you're sitting in a simulator and you have an instructor behind you, well, you have to just realize that things can get worse, and they will very likely get worse. Yeah, so I said, you know what? I'm sorry, I'm going to have to overrule. I want to go to Hanover. Do you see anything wrong with Hanover? Can you think of anything that will prevent us landing safely in Hanover? And then he really took his time thinking about it. And I thought, come on, hurry up, right? And he said, no, I can't think of anything. I said, all right, then request descend towards Hanover. So we landed in Hanover. So, little example of where things may differ regarding the fact-finding model. The thing is that, for me as a captain, you have to be careful not to lose your first officer. And so whenever you overrule your first officer with these kind of things, depending on their character, you have to, still keep them in the boat, right? So still keep them, happy. Yeah, exactly, Toto. So, that's what I've been taught as well. So, any major, so if a 50 amp circuit breaker pops, man, you don't go flying around for the hour, right? Even though it doesn't say land as up and amber or anything like that, well, you may as well just, look at the next suitable airport and just go there. Isn't that annoying though? Well, Yoda, that's the thing. You have to balance certain things. Now, if you have a even worse abnormal, and if your first officer still doesn't comply and still doesn't agree with you, well, you're going to have to force a decision. And we captains, we don't like to do it, but if that's necessary, then it is necessary. I would say, look, I understand your concerns. However, we're going to have to make the decision now, and I don't feel comfortable flying with this failure for more than another 10 minutes. Afterwards, after we've landed, we've stopped at the gate, we've shut down the engines, we'll have a good talk about it, and then who knows, maybe you were right in the end. I don't know, but for now, I'm going to have to make the call, and I'm making this call. So please bear with me. I need your support, that sort of stuff, right? Do you have A to C? Well, sometimes we did, Brenold. We did have, but ever since they changed the environment, we do a lot of repositionings, and that's why we don't have A to C now. So the instructor does the ATC simulation. More than 50 amps breaker is we're looking at 60 kilowatts of power draw. Jesus. 2 electric kettles. Oh, that's good. Actually, you know what, Toto? That's a fantastic comparison. Because with that comparison, I can actually do something in my head, right? So 2 electric kettles, that's a lot of power. Blimey, yeah. Cool. Okay, guys, so the first exercise will take us over the Alps. So without boring you to death these things. So we're going to go and position the aircraft in flight, and we'll be overhead the Alps. Now, I've got a question for MCK, and I think you'll like that question. So we're going to be positioned somewhere, I think, just south of Zurich. And you can see the grid altitudes here, 17.4, 16.2, 15.5. We're heading to Degat, and then to Odina, I think. So that's going to be the clearance initially. So, so no surprise, first of all, we're going to have to deal with an engine failure in cruise. Now, that's nothing too complicated, right? But it's one of the topics that could happen. I don't know if that's going to be a scenario that I'm going to have to deal with tomorrow or on Thursday, but it could be. So that's why I'm practicing it. So, the engine failure in cruise flight gives you, especially when the aircraft is heavy and you're at high altitude, it means that you are unable to maintain your altitude. Now, the aircraft is not going to fall out of the sky. It still has some good momentum, but losing an engine, having only half the thrust available, you will have to descend. And initially, there are some memory items to do. So, for example, thrust levers MCT, auto thrust off, and that is to prevent the aircraft spooling down or the engine spooling down at any point, because you do want to maintain its maximum thrust as you have. So auto thrust off, unusual, but it has to be done. Then maybe heading buck, set and pull, so trying to get away from the airway for possible descent, just in case you can't reach ATC fast enough. You will, of course, squawk 7700, call in Mayday whenever appropriate. You will determine an engine out recovery altitude. Your MCDU will help you with that. And then you determine a descent strategy. Now, descent strategy, we have 2 main ones. Well, actually, there's 3, actually. So there's a standard strategy, there's an obstacle strategy, and there is a fixed speed strategy. Now, the fixed speed strategy is only for ETOPS, really, and it's not covered here. So we're going to cover the standard and the obstacle strategy. So the standard strategy is you have your items, of course. We just talked about these. But the biggest difference between the 2 is the speed at which you're going to descend. So the standard strategy is speed Mach 0.78 and then later 300 knots. Why? Because you want to have the option for a windmilling start. So if it's just a simple flame out, let's say you had turbulence and the engine just cooled down, by going at the speed and the aircraft's still windmilling at a good rotational speed, the far deck will try a restart. So you may actually have the engine come back to life after 1 or 2 minutes. But the important thing is that you maintain that speed. So you'll try to lock that speed into the FCU. Right? So you pull speed, maintain that, pull altitude, set your determined ceiling altitude, and then just start your descent. Now, obviously, if you're descending at this higher speed, the descent rate will be larger. Right? You're creating more drag, and so you're going to be descending at a higher descent rate. So there's another obstacle. Well, there's another strategy called the obstacle strategy, and of course, that's when you have mountains below you. Right? Now, if you look at the Alps here, and I'm coming over just south of Zurich, I have engine failure, MCK. MCK, what strategy do we use? MCK, Now I'm not gonna try to say you're wrong or anything. I would assume I would have said the same thing. Obstacle strategy. Exactly. So here we go. So Toto. Exactly. Perfect. Yeah. It will be round about level 230, 220. So it will be above our obstacle limitations. Right? And that's exactly the point why, if you go over high terrain, you want to think about these things prior to entering that airspace. Right? Because just for the reason of having mountains below you does not mean that you have to slow down to green dot and then descend. Hey Jason, morning. And that's one of those things that kind of, I don't know, if you have an open mindset for that, this will actually maybe save your day, because you will then know, hey, you know what? Even though we have mountains below, I can still go with the standard strategy, because I'm going to level off at level 230 or 220, right? So I have ample obstacle clearance, but I have the option for getting a windmill start. So the Alps really, exactly, just look at the progress page. Yeah. So even within Mont Blanc, actually, I'm just wondering if the Mont Blanc actually has a bit higher grid altitudes. Yeah, exactly. So Lobos Nero, I mean, turn 180 degrees may sometimes be a good option. But like Toto says, it's going to take you 3, 4, 5 minutes to turn. And so you're covering a lot of ground. And then you'll find yourself at low altitude and having to go back over long distances. So it all depends on where you are. So if you have the engine failure here, well, yes, of course. Right? You've got a lot more distance to cover to get over the Alps. Well, yes, of course, you will turn back. But if it's like almost midway, well, in this case, you would very likely just continue. So Jasper, there are these escape route charts, for example, for the Himalayan mountains. Lima 888 Airway, for example, is one of those that covers that. If I go to, see, I hope I can find it quickly. Let's have a look here. If it's actually drawn in here. I'm not sure. Well, that's the thing. I'm not sure if it's actually. But you can see here, for example, we've got grid altitudes of 26,400 feet. So yes, of course, these altitude means you're going to have to think about an escape routing, right? And then, of course, you would do the obstacle procedure for the descent initially. But these high mountains mean, because we're talking about hundreds of miles to cover, there are some predetermined escape routes, and then we pilots, we have certain fixes, and we'll brief that as we go along. Until what point, depending on the wind as well, of course, at what point will we continue or turn back, or at what point will we continue or turn left, etc., etc. So for the very high mountains, we do have that. Now, I want to have a quick look at the Rocky Mountains. So again, you're going to have to differentiate what kind of mountains you're facing, right? And what grid altitudes you are having. So here, yeah, 16.3, 11.3. So if these are the highest, then even here on the west coast of the US, yeah, exactly. So So it's below 18,000. So again, you don't have to worry about the strategy, right? You can literally do the standard strategy at any point, at any case anyway. So there's no need to slow down the aircraft because in the end, you want to get out of the high terrain area, don't you? And if you can fly level 230 and do that with high speed, well, then you're going to clear those mountains quickly and get into low terrain. Well, that's a different topic, yes, of course. So we're strictly talking about engine failure. A decompression is something completely different, right? Decompression, you have limited oxygen supply. So normally, without any further systems installed, you're going to have to be below 13,000 feet within 10 minutes. So, of course, that puts you in a different position, and then you're going to have to make different different solutions. Yeah, absolutely, Toto. Yeah. And again, I think the discussion shows that for pilots flying, over mountainous areas or ETOPS, you always have to prepare for the very unlikely case of having a decompression or engine failure. But nothing is left for speculation. So if you're doing an ETOPS flight, let's say over the Atlantic, there are absolutely very strict limitations, on how much flight time you're allowed to have to your en route alternate in case of in case of decompression, in case of engine failure, etc., etc. So you have to look at different cases, work out your fuel consumption, etc., etc. So definitely, all pre-planned. There's nothing left to chance. Yeah. So MCK, again, you have your laws and regulations, right? Now, I think it's safe to say if you fly at 15,000 feet, unless you have a very, very kind of bad medical condition, I don't think anyone will die at 15,000 feet cabin altitude if you fly for 15-20 minutes. Right? They may not feel well, but I don't think they will die, and I don't think they will have any bigger medical issues afterwards. However, the rules and regulations state that you have to have, so 15,000 should be a large issue normally, but again, you have your regulations, rules that you have to adhere to. Anyways, we're talking about the engine failure case, so standard strategy will be the governing strategy that we're going to use. Now, if you are unsure, if you like, let's say you were a little bit lazy, complacent, and you didn't think about your strategy, right? And let's say you're cruising somewhere near the Mont Blanc, and you think like, oh, Mont Blanc, it's such a high mountain, and you didn't really check the grid altitudes for that, and then you have that engine failure. Well, okay, so then initially do your obstacle strategy, all right? And then take the time, once you find the time, to have a look in your charts and determine your minimum clearance altitudes, and then maybe change back again to your standard strategy. Right? But it is, of course, better to look at this prior to entering these airspaces. And for our company, we actually have to do a en route briefing for that. So not just the departure arrival briefing, we actually have an en route special briefing when we go over high terrain, for example. Right. We'll look at the weather, we'll get some weather infos from different airports that we can divert to if necessary. We'll determine where the wind is coming from, and then we'll look at the minimum usable flight level, etc., etc. So, and then it is actually expected of us to do a quick briefing, and say, all right, cruise briefing, we're coming up to the Alps, our engine out recommended altitude will be 230, max grid altitude is 180, So in case of engine failure, we'll do a standard descent strategy. In case of a decompression, we'll turn back until this waypoint or this DME from that VOR, and if we pass that, we'll continue straight. Yeah, so Monitos, it's all about, you know, these things. So between 10 and 13,000 feet, you are allowed to operate within 30 minutes of flight time without oxygen. Right. Now, if you get above 13,000 feet cabin altitude, you have to have oxygen supply all the time, unless you have a pressured cabin, obviously. If you are, you know, in between 13,000, 10,000, 30 minutes is your maximum time. Yeah, so depending on your medical condition and, you know, how fit you are, what your general oxygen saturation is in the in your blood, that will then determine, of course, your ability to sustain or not get hypoxia at these altitudes. Good. Without further ado, guys, so let's do the first scenario. Thank you for your patience. And again, I'm going to use the FSI panel, and I have created, just for my personal practice session here, I've done a little scenario. The scenario will end regarding the pop-ups once we are inbound to the Oslo airport. But we will do a landing, obviously. So I'm going to make sure that I put the gear lever up for the cruise flight. MCK, I may not brief it to this extent, but I will brief the minimum safe altitudes, and I will brief, you know, the airports that are available to us.
Terrain ahead. Pull up.
Right, so we're just going to wait until the aircraft settles in to the cruising level. We are in position freeze, and you can see here that we are currently... where's Zurich? There's Zurich. So we are south of Zurich, and we're going to get clearance to Degat and then to Odina. That's going to be the clearance. So right now we are facing the highest grid altitude here of 16.2. So I would say, in case of engine failure, we'll do the standard strategy, Mach 0.78, 300 knots, and somewhere down to level 200 or 220 in that region, which will still be safe. Right, in case of a decompression, a rapid decompression, at this position here, we'll turn back to Zurich. If we are, what was that, to waypoint? If we are very close to Degat, then we'll continue straight. Good. So the app is now preparing the aircraft for us. The app is even programming the MCU for me, so I don't have to do anything. So initially, the flight was going from Frankfurt to Malta, and that means we have a very high gross weight right now. So we're still above max landing weight of 64 tons. Right, everything's programmed, so now we're going to hold the brakes for 3 seconds. And again, it's just a demonstration. I'm not going to aim for perfect. I'll try to perfect solution, but again, I'm single pilot here, so I may not cover everything correctly. I hope I do. Right, Degart and then to Adina. That's the clearance from ATC. So let's enter that here. Direct Degart. And set that, and we'll go to Adina. So we're going to clear up this. Right, so normally we would be sitting here talking to ATC, and then yeah, we've done our cruise briefing here for the crossing of the Alps. We checked the weather. It's a little bit kind of overcast cloud layer over the northern parts of Italy, but the ceilings are all right. I think ceiling around 2,000 to 1,000 feet. Visibility is fine. No precipitation. So yeah, Zurich is also fine. So we've got lots of options. Lemon at the moment. So again, I'm going through some stuff that may happen in my check ride. I don't know which one of these scenarios will happen. So again, I'm trying to refresh my memory, and by going through the procedures in real time, it does help me with that, because then I'll notice if there's something that I've forgotten about. So at any point, whenever appropriate, perform the ECAM courage procedures, obviously, but first, as always, aviate, navigate, communicate. Always that has always highest priority, right? So aviate is this part, right? Navigate also heading back, for example, and then communicate is ATC, right? And then once that's all done, then we go into the ECAM procedures. So note, at high altitudes and or high growth rates, the speed will decay quickly. It is therefore important to monitor the speed and not delay the descent. Do not allow the speed to drop below green dot. Right. The autothrust is disconnected to avoid engine thrust reduction when selecting speed according to the selected procedure or when pulling for open descent. Whenever appropriate, the autothrust may be used again. Something a lot of people forget about in the end, but that's obviously whenever it makes sense to activate the autothrust again, do so. So the main difference between the standard strategy and obstacle strategy is the speed. So 0.783 knots in order for the option to have an in-flight windmilling relight. And whenever you are mountainous, obstacle limited, speed slowly reduced to green dot. That will give you the best lift to drag speed, and that will mean you will descend with max continuous thrust at a lot lower rate compared to the standard strategy. So let's have a look. What age were you when you did your complete CPL license? I was that was in 1992, so that was a long time. I became a captain in 2007. So currently we are still here, 16.2. But oh, hang on. First calls, Captain. We're noticing a stronger vibration near the left wing. Okay. Oh. Yeah, we got a advisory there. So that's high engine vibration. Shall we go into the checklist? High engine vibration. So let's have a look. How old was I? I was with the CPL, so ATPL. I was 23. So let's have a look at engines, engines. So it's just like in real life, it just takes you a while to get through the checklist, because it's not an ECAM checklist, is it, right now? So let's have a look at engine high vibration. If icing is suspected, no, we're well out of icing regions. Icing not suspected. If vibration advisory and flight conditions permit, thrust affected engine reduce below advisory threshold. Okay, so the reduce engine 1 thrust. Let's have a look if that helps. Oh, what's happening now? Alright, so, oh, engine has died completely. Right, so, mayday, mayday, mayday. Let's go down to 100, and again, we can do that. So we set speed 300, and of course, auto thrust off, thrust MCT. Mayday is copied, descent flight with 200, no traffic below. Right, if there's no traffic below, we can stay on the path here, so level 200 it is initially, and 300 knots to maintain. And look at how quickly the speed decayed already. Although at this altitude we should have Mach 0.78, not 3 knots. So Mach 0.78 is fine. Look out for that initially. And we've got the MCT, outer thrust is off. And so aviate, navigate, communicate, obviously 7700. Let everyone know that we're going down. We've got the clearance. Hey Cowbell, greetings. Good, so ECAM actions. So engine 1 fail, we'll get the associated warning lamps on the overhead panel as well. And we heard the generator kick off the bus. So ECAM actions, engine 1 fail, engine mode selector ignition. And again, that is to help with the engine relight. So we've got the speed. We are in windmilling speed regime. And with some luck, we may get a restart. Although if you look at the N2 and 1, that has a seizure, so that's actually not turning anymore. So it's very unlikely that will restart. But anyways, let's continue. Thrust lever number 1 idle. And so I'll put my finger on the thrust lever. I'll ask the first officer to confirm. I'll say confirm. And he'll look at my hand and my finger and I'll say, yeah, number 1 confirmed. Idle. Engine master 1 off. Again, that's the first officer now doing the item here. He'll put his hand on or finger on the engine 1 start lever. He'll say confirm, and I'll say number 1 confirmed. Off. There's some weather infos. So Bergamo is alright. Malpensa is alright. Winds northwesterly, and Linate is fine as well. Okay, cool. So ATC trying to be helpful. Engine 1, fire, push, button, push. So why do we do this? Again, first officer puts his finger there. This is pilot monitoring. And he say confirm. I'll look at the hand and his finger and I'll say number 1 confirmed. And again, this is vital, guys. If you switch off the wrong engine, you've got a lot of problems. So that's why you do that very carefully, and you confirm and take your time to confirm. So, Agent 1, after 1 second discharge. Agent 1, discharge. Why do we do that? Well, that is to secure the engine. Right, so we've disconnected hydraulic, we've disconnected fuel, we've disconnected electrics, and we make sure that there's no fire that can persist there. Good, so ECAM will always say engine 1 relight consider if there's no damage. Well, we decided it is a damage, so we'll continue. And so disregard that it says shutdown if no fuel leak. Let's have a look. Okay guys, have a look here please. Let me know if you see any issues right now. Yeah, so the engine has only been switched off for a couple of minutes, right? And the right engine is running, so really I would expect this value to be less than this value, right? Yeah, so it's a fuel leak. Okay, so that's another. Okay, if no fuel leak, well, disregard. Yeah, we do have a fuel leak. We'll have a look at that in a minute. Let's continue first of all with this checklist. Imbalance monitor. All right, we'll monitor the imbalance. TCAS mode selector TA. And then if Buffett, no, there's no Buffett at the moment. Clear engine 1. If Buffett, max speed to 40. Well, we don't have Buffett, all good. And avoid icing conditions. We'll try. And that's the end of the checklist. Clear engine 1. Clear engine 1. Land ASAP and amber. Air bleed. Right side is supplying the pack system. left side is dead. Clear bleed. Elec. Gen 2 is supplying all the buses. Gen 1 is dead, as expected. Clear Elec. Clear Elec. Hydraulics. Right. Engine 1. Engine-driven pump. So the green pump is dead. The green system is working, however, through the PTU from the yellow system. Clear hydraulics. Clear hydraulics. Status. Stop ECAM. Right, so the question now is there anything that we can do to improve the situation? Now, I've already had some suggestions regarding crossbleed or crossfeed. Guys, is it a good idea to crossfeed at the moment? Negative. Well, the thing is this, guys. Exactly. So you guys are absolutely correct. You don't know where the leak is coming from. If the leak is towards the engine and you crossfeed from the other side, you may just pour your other good fuel into the leak. Yeah. So, yeah. Even though I understand the thinking, people saying, well, why don't we use the fuel as long as possible? Right, open the crossfeed. No, because again, you can literally lose the good fuel, so forget about that. Just accept the fact you're going to have a green dot of speed here. So normally we've gone through the checklist already. I'm just extending the time a little bit, guys, just to explain a couple of things. So, fuel leak, back for memory, we have a fuel leak. Nothing that we can do about it. APU. Do you want to do anything with the APU? The left engine is... would you turn off the left engine fuel pumps? You could. You could. But you know, anything not according to procedure, we're always a bit careful about. Exactly. So the APU, I wouldn't start the APU either, because the APU will take over part of the electrics. But then once the fuel out of the main tank 1 runs out, the APU will starve. So again, I wouldn't start the APU. No requirement to do that right now. Yeah, we're still going down quicker now. I'm trying to get quickly down to Malpensa. Okay, so forget that. Okay, status, continue status, read, or continue ECAM read status. It says avoid icing conditions. All right, we'll try that. If severe ice accretion, well, we don't have that. If ice accretion, we have min speed VLS plus 10 or green dot, maneuver with care, but we don't have ice accretion, so ignore that right now. Landing distance procedure apply. We'll keep that in the back of our head. We'll do that immediately after finishing the procedure. If no engine 1 damage, well, we did say it's a damage. We're not going to relight. And so for the approach, it's Cat 3 single only. NIP systems, wing anti-ice, Cat 3 dual, engine 1 bleed, pack 1 inop, main galley inop, gen 1 inop, and green engine 1 pub inop. All covered. So remove status removed, and that means ECAM actions completed. Right, fact finding. Guys, I'm not going to go through the landing procedure. Engine failure, brakes are working. I would say about 1,800 meters, 1,700 meters with that weight. And because we have a fuel leak, we're actually now at max landing weight. So for Malpensa, the only real restriction we would have is the go-around climb gradient. So if we have any issues with that, we may need to consider another airport. But once we've calculated that everything is okay to land at Malpensa or have a go-around margin available for the gradients for the engine out, then that's fine. So we've done all that, right? In real life, we would have to do that. Both pilots need to calculate that, and both pilots need to compare the results. We've checked all that, and again, if you have 2 pilots, you could distribute the workload, and then you know, it doesn't take that long. And also, pilots would have the practice and the experience to go through the checklist very quickly. Right, we'll go for Alice Zulu 35 left via Inla, and we should be all right to go back 20 miles. That's be Marta. Let's have a quick look at 35 left. Yeah, so fly money. Quick answer on that. As long as it doesn't discharge the squib or the fire agent, you can push that back in, and that will open again the hydraulics, fuel, etc. So you can actually recover the engine. If you discharge an agent, obviously then not. Why it still has that in the checklist, I don't know. I think it's a legal requirement from Airbus. You would have to ask an engineer. I don't know the answer to that. Good. Well, yeah, we can go direct back to Inla. So we'll turn to the airport, reduce the speed slowly, and then I'll go auto thrust on, and we'll go thrust idle up descent. No, so Mighty Morph right now, look at the autopilot will trim the rudder automatically. So you can see that here we are in a nicely balanced yaw situation, so the passenger wouldn't know from that. But in daylight, they would see, you know, something happening with the engine, and they may look, you know, from the left side. Alright, just need to keep that. That's fine. Resume. So on this side, yeah, I can see the engine now actually stopped. It's not turning anymore. The sounds, etc. So they would know. Right? They would know that something's wrong. Right, so actually, I don't want to slow down too far because we still have a fuel leak, correct? Now, so we decided on landing in Malpensa. Now we've made an announcement to the cabin crew, to the passengers. I'll do a very short announcement saying, as you've noticed, the left-hand engine has failed. We're currently just south of Milano, Malpensa. We're just turning back. We'll be landing in Milano in about 10 minutes from now. It'll be a normal landing. Please follow the instructions given by my cabin crew, and once after we've landed and we're at the gate, we'll get some more infos to you regarding your onward flights. And that's it. It will be a normal landing, even though it is a engine out approach. It's not that we have to prepare the cabin for, you know, anything wild. So I'll tell the cabin crew 10 minutes, prepare everything, make sure the cabin is clean, clean in the sense that all the equipment is stowed, and we're good for landing. Hey, Cyanide. Hey, Cyanide, thanks for hopping in. And if there's anyone that is extremely keen on finding out how the engine model is coming along, it's me. Because one thing I can't practice today for my sim mission is engine out recoveries. Because we know that at the moment, the thrust just isn't correctly set for the engine out case. Even if it's like 60 tons or something, the aircraft doesn't really climb anymore. So I am very keen on the new engine model. So it sounds good what you've just written there. Nice. Okay, guys. So fuel leak. Now, believe it or not, there is a fuel leak checklist, and I can quickly quote that. Nice. Okay. Yeah, Armia, fantastic. Again, I'm really hyped about that. And in case you're interested, Sana, which what we had, we were over the Alps. We got engine failure and a fuel leak. So something that may happen. And I am going to go through the fuel leak checklist real quickly. So when we open up the fuel leak checklist, there's some things that we could ask. For example, leak from the engine pylon confirmed by excessive fuel flow, low N1, or visual check. well, we can't see the fuel flow anymore. And the cabin crew says, yeah, there's fuel. But here's the thing with the cabin attendants. Now, they are good, of course, and they have a little bit of technical knowledge. But to be fair, even you guys, you're going to have difficulties, looking at the engine from here and telling me where the fuel leak is coming from. All you will see is that there's a spray of fuel behind the wing. But if I ask you, well, is that from the engine pylon or from the wing or from the flap fairing, right? You're very likely going to say, you what? Say again. You can't expect flight attendants or passengers to know this, right? So, for us, we don't know. So the second option would be leak from engine pylon is not confirmed, or leak is not located, and that's the option I would take right now. It says, fuel crossfeed maintain closed. All right, crossfeed. Yeah, stand up and watch myself. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Right, but you put the kappa there, all good. Right, so maintain closed. Now it says center tank pump 1 off and center tank pump 2 off, and then inner fuel tank qualities or inner tank fuel quantities monitor. Now, does that make sense now? No, because the fuel is almost gone. Any troubleshooting now is just gonna distract us from flying the aircraft. So disregard. But if we had the time, we would switch off the center tank pump 1, center tank pump 2 on here, right? And then we monitor the fuel values, and the options then would be if one inner tank depletes faster than the other by at least 300 kilograms in less than 30 minutes. Well, that's what we had. Thrust lever, engine on leaking side, which is number 1, idle. Well, it's already idle. Engine master, engine on leaking side off. Well, it's already off. And then center tank pump 1 on and center tank pump 2 on, and fuel leak monitor. And then there would be option if the leak stops or if the leak continues. Well, the leak has continued after engine shutdown. Well, guess what? It's telling us wing leak suspected. Wow. Okay, so who would have thought? It actually then says, that's interesting, it actually says engine restart consider. Well, we're not going to, obviously. But that's an option Airbus gives you. But we're going to do, not going to do that. And it says caution, do not apply the fuel imbalance procedure. And it may pop up here. Approach and landing can be done even with one full wing, one empty wing. So even if one wing is fully fueled and the other one full empty, you can still fly the aircraft. There's no problem with that. Now, one very, very important last message that's on the checklist. It says, for landing, do not use reverse thrust. And that's the fuel leak checklist completed. Good. Right. Anything else we need to consider right now? Is there anything that I've forgotten? That's a question I would actually put to the first officer. Pretty much at this position, about to start the approach, I would ask him, is there anything that I've forgotten? Is there anything you can think of that's missing? Or is there anything that's causing you, some confusion or, a bad feeling? Yeah, good point, Alpha. Fantastic. Alpha, perfect. So of course, yeah, you've declared emergency. You can rest assured the fire brigade will be at the runway, if you like it or not. You've declared emergency. You continue to have an emergency. So yes, of course, the fire brigade will be there. And yes, you're going to have to tell ATC, hey, we have a fuel leak. Even though the tank is almost empty, or is empty, we may still have some fuel leaking out. So after landing, we'll come to a stop on the runway, and we'll have the fire brigade check the aircraft, and then depending on if we still have fuel leaking out or not, we may shut down the engines, get towed to the stand, whatever. No, the hydraulics is completely normal, and even if it shows 2,700 psi, that's still fine. Everything will move normally. Now it does tell us, because we have no fuel left in the left tanks, it says low pressure, left tank pump off, and left tank 2 pump off. So it does make sense. So quickly we'll do that. We don't want the pumps running on a dry tank. Left tank gravity feed only, disregard. Gravity fuel fleeting, disregard. Avoid negative G factor, disregard. So clear fuel, clear. We'll do one more check of the status page. Right, we'll disregard that. Don't need that. We don't have ice aggression. That's fine. Nothing new there. Open up systems. I don't see anything new apart from the tank pump, but that's all fine. So remove status. Everything remains the same. Now you can just kind of get the impression of how busy things are, and so yeah, we kind of neglected the flying part. So really quickly, we'll intercept the ILS. ECPOP 4000 was somewhere on the way to about 10 miles from the ILS. Descent profile 3 degrees. 346 inbound, minimum 900. And again, single pilot ops, that's something which does bite you, obviously. So quickly, I'm going to enter those values there. Lockstar was there. That's why, you know, I always say single pilot ops, flaps 1, speeds checked, flaps 1, status, nothing new, no status. And that's why I can miss some things, obviously. I'm just, you know, a lot busier than what I would normally be. Got 6 degrees and we'll take 900 feet to minimum. So the misapproach, yeah, hey, game stuff, fantastic input. I'll take that input in a minute. We'll go straight out, 1450, turn left, max to 10 knots to intercept and follow radio 265, Sierra Roman number, and direct to nail up and join the hole in there. That's what we'll do. And good input. I like it, guys. I love it when people here are with me on the flying here. Absolutely, with single engine, landing distances are short. So for a better go around performance, yeah, we'll use config 3. Absolutely. Right, about 10 miles from the ILS, glide slope star, missed approach 4000 is set. Flaps 2, speeds check, flaps 2. I imagine a 737. Well, I mean, they would have similar procedures, pilot. I don't think that would be much different. The elevation is 700 feet, so we're going to be stable at 1700 feet. Yeah. Now, you are correct, Chichi PD, you are correct. Normally, that's something to keep your eye on, but it's simulating cold soak. So when the liquid cools down, since the green system is the biggest hydraulic system, you get a drop in quality indication. And that's why it's showing below normal range right now. But that's nothing to be worried about at the moment, so all fine. Okay, fantastic. Yeah, I love the inputs. Cool. All right. So, oh, you mean alone the 737? Yeah, that would be a handful. Absolutely. Yeah, and a lot of memory items. I agree. So, get down.
2000.
Ah, we still got good crosswinds from the left here. depends, Arnie. It depends. You know, you can't answer that question. Flaps 3, check flaps 3. You can't answer that question immediately. You know, you have to look at your, you know, what's the weather like on your alternate airports and route. What position are you in? If it's midway, Arnie, it'll depend. It'll depend on weather conditions and you know, how far to the next suitable airport. Good. We're gonna go manual thrust here. Yeah, well, good question. I love it. So people asking, hey, is it necessary to have just, you know, move one thrust lever, or are you allowed just for comfort reasons to move both? That is up to you. So when we do our check rides, the instructor will accept both variants. For me, I only use one thrust lever. Why? Because I have a bit of feedback that way. If I go around, and one of the exercises is go around single engine, I know that I only have thrust on the right engine. So if I increase the thrust on the right engines, what do I need to do? I know immediately I need to press the right rudder, right, to combat the asymmetry.
1,000.
1,000 checks, landing checklist, remember landing no blue. And of course it would have done all the rest of the checklists prior to that. So now that I am in manual flight, I have to either trim the rudder manually or add manual rudder input. And you can see I'm doing that right now. So if I add thrust, I will have to add a little bit more right rudder. If I reduce the thrust, I will have to let go of the right rudder pedal a bit. So trying to keep things balanced. And I can watch the triangle there. Right, so whenever I have a nice formation on the triangle there, all balanced. If I do this, you see the slip indicator now? That shows me I need more right rudder. So try to balance things
300.
nicely. I'm going to go with the parpies here.
100 above. 200.
So the glide slope is wrong, guys. Don't worry about it. Just going to go
Minimum.
with the parpies. Continue.
100.
20 knots from the left still. It's a bit of crosswind.
50. 40. 30. 20. Retard.
A bit of ballooning. Come on.
10.
Let's settle down.
5.
No reverse, remember? So we've got spoilers, decel, no reverse. So we're just going to wait hot brakes here. Another thing why I've chosen auto brake low, just in case we still have fuel leaking out, it's better to have cooler brakes, obviously. Minor brakes. And then I'm just going to stop here. Okay, Amir, fantastic. Fixed the weird aileron response with the rudder in Def 2. Nice, okay, cool. Yeah, I can see you guys are working hard on getting things realistic. Fantastic. Good, so that's yeah, one of the scenarios that may happen. It may not happen though, so I'm going to do one more quick scenario that may happen. Again, I don't know exactly which ones will happen. I only know roughly. And so the second one, let's look at the landing distance just within limits. Oh, okay, disregard. I didn't change the actually. Oh, because I have 3.5 right here, so I should have changed that 3.5 left. Okay, disregard that then. But nice landing otherwise. Fantastic. Cool. Arnie asks, "Hey, Tail West, how you doing? Nice to see you. I hope you're doing good. If you have a technical failure in Kettlebeck, do you get service here?" And it depends.
Welcome
I would need to check
the
that.
Captain Blackbox Twitch channel subscriber experience.
I don't know that by heart,
Could new
Arnie.
subscribers
I will
please
need to
make
check
your
my
way to the
documents for that.
first class cabin, where complimentary drinks, snacks, and premium flight entertainment will be served. Thank you.
Tail West and Mark, thank you so much, Mark, for gifting us up to Tail West. That's really kind of you, Mark, as always. Thank you so much. You completely new to the 737, then I guess I'm trying to fly it with the TCS stick because normally I'm on the Airbus. Which, It doesn't react to rudder in and tiller input. Okay. I'm not sure why. And I can't, just by reading through the comment, I can't find any solution here now. Cool, so let's have a look now. Let's do the next weather. So it's going to be a bit worse. So new scenario, guys, and this time I'll practice a emergency descent. I've prepared something a little bit for you guys. And for this, we're dispatched with left pack inop. So pack 1 is inop according to MEL. We're allowed to fly as long as the speed brakes are working. And some other things, but all good. We're not doing ETOPS. So now we'll have a different scenario. Aircraft be prepared. And while we're doing this, let me go through the EMO descent. So there's a lot of stuff there. Okay, so if I look at my documents, you know, we pilots, we have to read through a lot of stuff. And so there's a lot of background info, obviously. So not just the pure items to handle a decompression. There are obviously some minute things there as well. And so, just as an example, so a cabin pressure cabin decompression can occur slowly or rapidly. Now, a slow decompression is more difficult to notice and is a more dangerous one. However, whenever you get a cabin pressure excess cabin altitude warning, and that happens either if the cabin altitude is above 9,550 feet or 1,000 feet above the airfield pressure altitude, then you have to rely on that warning. Even if no other warnings are being produced by the flight warning computer. Because there's different sensors that will bring out these alerts. So whenever you have cabin pressure, excess cabin altitude, that's it. You do the EMA descent procedure.
Terrain ahead.
So there's some memory actions, and I'll show you. Something else. So the beeping stops in a minute. Raise the landing gear, the flaps, obviously. So. Oh, come on. Right, there we go. Good, so we have a flow chart here for EMA descent. You can see there is a difference between CM1, CM2, and so pilot flying, pilot monitoring. So the pilot flying is going to do the green items, and the pilot monitoring is going to do the yellow items. Now the captain can be pilot monitoring, right? So if the first officer is pilot flying, then I would just put the oxygen mask on first of all. We have to do that just to save ourselves, really. So that's the most important thing. Decompression, right? You would call out EMA descent, either call out memory items or masks on. Just make sure you put the mask on first, right? Otherwise you're going to run into an issue. Then the pilot monitoring will put the signs on and then check the FMA. In the meantime, the captain or the pilot flying will do EMA descent initiate, right? And it's a 3-step: altitude, heading, speed. And the first round is very coarse, so dial down the altitude. It doesn't matter what it's at first. You can fine tune later. Just get it down. Heading, get away from the airway, because there's very likely someone below you. And the third thing, speed. Now set the current speed, pull it. Then once that's done, you check the FMA, announce the FMA, you make sure the thrust goes to idle. Alright, and then if it doesn't go idle automatically, well then just kick it out. Just kick out the old thrust, pull the thrusters to idle. They need to go idle, that's very important. And then speed brake full. That's it. And then you go back and fine-tune. So the pilot monitoring will call ATC, call for Mayday, and it'll go through the checklist. So initially, it's very important, very time-critical items to be done. But once that's done, you go through the checklist and then fine-tune stuff. So just like we did before, we're currently somewhere over the Alps, and it'll be pretty much the same position like we had before. I only did that tail west. I only did it for climb. I don't. It's one of those things, tail west, and I'm sure you as an instructor, you will notice that there is some skepticism when it comes to descent expedite push button. I always feared the autopilot would go into overspeed. I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm just, wrong on that, but I don't know what it is. But I have a fear that we go into overspeed and run into other trouble. But it may not be the case. So we're going to go direct to Odina. Degat first, and then to... okay, you banned it. Okay, wow. Okay, you banned it. You don't even have the button in the plane. Seriously. I didn't know you could actually get rid of that. Lol. Okay, guys. So, initially, in case of a decompression, we'll make sure we don't hit any obstacles down below. And again, decompression means to descend quickly. So let's find out how low we can go initially, and then fine-tune later. So high airways. So currently it is 16.2. So let's say 18,000 would be fine. Oh, hang on. So we got Mayday because Pack 2 is in up. It failed. So now we're going to have probably a slow decompression. So yeah, we did call in ATC. Mayday. Lost air conditioning and preservation. Request immediate descent. Right. So again, altitude, heading, speed. Make sure thrust goes to idle. Speed brake full. And then fine tune as necessary. The pilot monitoring switches on the seat belts because we are going down quickly, even though it's not an emergency descent per se. It doesn't say the procedure yet, but we have to get down. So descend to flight level 100 or minimum en route, minimum off-route altitude. So we determined it's going to be one. Oh, there we go. So now different procedure. Red warning, which has higher priority. That's why it pops up over the other one. The other one is still there, the other checklist. It's just below here. So now we have cabin pressure, excess cabin altitude. Yeah, 10,800. All right, oxygen mask on. Right, get the oxygen mask on. Com check. Right, make sure that we have either off or on interphone. Make sure we have good communications between us two. We are already in a descent, just rechecking everything. Going down 4,000 feet per minute. We can increase the speed a bit more. I'm going to start the timer here. Right, it says direct to Serrano and descend flight level 140. Now, I'm going to acknowledge that, but I'm going to check the altitude first of all, once I have the time. We still have a bit of time. Good, so, ECAM actions. Cabin pressure, excess cabin altitude, crew oxygen use. Descent initiate, we're doing that. Currently 6,000 feet per minute. That's good enough, so it'll take about 4 to 5 minutes. Speed, max appropriate. Well, I don't feel that we have any damage on the aircraft, so I will nudge that forward even more. So max appropriate. If we had strong vibrations because the door blew out, well, then I would limit the speed, obviously. Engine mode selector, ignition. Well, we're doing high speed maneuvers, so why not put that to ignition, prevent the flame out. And then ATC notify, we've done that. Cabin crew advise. Right, PA, emergency descend, emergency descend. So cabin crew knows as well. Clear cabin pressure. Transponder 7700 consider. Yeah, we'll do that because that way all of the ATC sectors that receive our transponder code will have us popping up now. And again, max flight level, 100 or minimum en route altitude. Now we're currently 40 miles from Saronno. Just to enter. Oh, Mighty Morph, absolutely, yeah. You would feel that. And you know, as a passenger, you have your oxygen mask dangle out. There's another thing here, very important. And I will do this first. If cabin altitude is more than 14,000 feet, which is it is, packs oxygen masks manual on. Now, normally the automation should have popped out the... yeah, that's true, Taylor Vest. The Flight Radar 24 users will see you for sure. So we just press that button here under the cover just to make sure if the automated mask deployment failed that the masks drop out. Right, so we have to press that button manually even when the masks are already deployed. We just do that. Right, we can do 14,000 now, so level 140 out blue. Still going down quickly. And that's all the items done, so clear cabin pressure. And then air pack 1 and 2 fault descent, we're doing that. And then when differential pressure is below 1 psi and we are below flight level 100, ram air on. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But right now we're not below level 100, so disregard, but we have to remember that later on. Well, the thing is this, so the expert descent, but let me just do that. So it'll do expert descent, and it will put the speed bug to the max permissible speed. The problem is, if you're at high altitude, the aircraft will pitch down violently and may react too slowly and then get into overspeed. And it is risky for overspeed, that's why we don't do it. Alright, so... and then web pack overheat out, disregard that. So we have a pack failure, 1 and 2, clear air, clear that. Alright, so we've done everything. Cabin pressure, low differential pressure as well. So air pack 1, 2 fault clear. And then cabin pressure, low differential pressure, expect high cabin rate. That's very important as a note. And I'll talk about that in a minute as well. Look at the descent rate. So because we have all of the outflow valves open now, the descent rate, so the pressure change rate in the cabin pretty much equals your actual aircraft descent rate. And you can imagine a change in altitude of 4,200 feet per minute does hurt your ears. So we are now at 10,000 feet and we're going to get clearance to go to 80 now. However, I'm going to start reducing the descent rate. Why? Because we are now at an altitude where you don't need the oxygen mask anymore. You can breathe normally just by the outside air or the internal air here, but that means the pressure change is a lot better for the passengers. I'm going to put the speed to 2, well, let's put to 50 because we may have some people that are sick. Now, differential pressure is below 1 psi and we're below 10,000 feet. Ram air on. Now, ram air is a feature. It's a little scoop. It's a little scoop below the aircraft. You can't see it yet, so hopefully it's modeled. I don't think it is modeled, I'm not sure. I don't see it, so probably not. Now what it does, it scoops in air and puts it straight into the distribution duct. So the passengers and you are getting fresh air from the outside. It's a very basic system. It doesn't pressurize the cabin, it can't. but at least you're going to have a little bit of fresh air coming in from the outside and going back out through the outflow valve. And that's what you do. Now, for passenger comfort reasons, we try to limit the descent rate to 1,000 feet per minute. In the meantime, we've done all our normal procedures. We've done communications, you know, and then go through. Right, descent 80. We've done that, and then we would go through. Yeah, the normal, you know, fact-finding options, etc. So status is very short, actually. So the only status we get is max level 100 or min en route Mora. Forget the left side stick, that's a simulator issue. And then NUP systems, pack 1 and 2, and that's it. So there's nothing wrong with spoilers, reverser, brakes, hydraulics. That's all working nicely. So that's a normal landing in this regard. However, we're not going to continue for much longer because a rapid decompression means that you're very likely going to have people that are bleeding from their ears, so they have a popped inner ear or something. So that's why, yeah, you know, you would not continue too far out. So if I go get the weather, even if they say do a Cat 3 approach in Malpensa, well, we'll do that. Why not? Right? Because systems are all working, so I'll accept that. I just want to land quickly. So we'll go and do an approach into Malpensa. It says, after Serrano, turn right heading 190, expect the Zulu 35 right via Inla. So I'm going to clear out Zulu 35 right via Inla. There we go. And I'm going to clear out Kalik. So that way, I'm going to head 190 after that. Okay, so same thing. So we made that decision to divert. We'll look at the approach charts. This time we're going 5 right. Zulu. Actually, we're going to do a autoland. I don't actually know exactly what the weather's like, so let's do that here. So Cat 2335 right. And we've got the option to do Cat 3 Bravo, so no decision height. So I'm just going to enter all of the values here. Actually, let's go standard 220, 1020. Active approach phase here. Discontinuity ahead, fantastic. So 26 degrees, I think still 350 or something, 350 at 15. And then no decision height on the radio bar there. I'm just going to put MMP in here. And then that's all set. So heading 190 and we're at 5,000 feet. So this will be a good point to make an announcement to the passengers, explain to them what happened, that we're going to be landing in about 10 to 15 minutes, that we'll have the medics on standby in case anybody needs help, and further infos again once we're on the ground. Then I would have to confer with the cabin crew, get a general idea on what's happening in the cabin, if they see anyone being hurt. If yes, how many people are hurt, you know, so that we can relay that info to the authorities or the airport so that they can get some more ambulances which are around the airport, etc., etc. So, you know, this is a good time now to coordinate everything. And did you guys notice how long it took to descend? Because usually with that descent rate around 5,000 feet per minute, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 feet per minute, it'll take about 4 to 5 minutes from level 350 down to 10,000. So it is very quick, right? And remember, our goal is to get below 10,000 feet within 10 minutes. Although legally it will be 13,000, but again, we try to aim for 10,000. because that makes breathing for passengers a lot easier. And now we'd have taken off our masks. So once we're below 10,000 feet, that's fine. Why? Because we can communicate a lot better without the masks being on. I can tell you from experience that if you're using the oxygen mask, communication is so difficult. And I can also tell you that the PA announcements with the mask on, well, they're not really reassuring. So they're not going to comfort the passengers. I'm going to ask for a little bit shorter approach here. So yeah, 3,000 sector is confirmed. So descend 3,000. I'm going to turn right here a little bit more. So again, these kind of preparations that we pilots do when we have a check ride coming up. So either you have a simulator like I have here, and I have some good add-ons that I can practice these things with, or if you don't, you would actually sit on your chair, close your eyes, and then mentally go through such an abnormal, and that's what we call chair flying. And that way, you would, if you're very good, you would do the following: you would try to get so immersed that you even think about the physical reactions that you may have, like the rush of air, so the air coming out of your lungs, suddenly the temperature drop in the cabin because of that decompression, possible panic initially, and trying to overcome that. So try to get yourself out of that the rabbit in the headlights situation, so that you remain active, you remain on top of the situation. And then just go through your items, like physically think about, okay, I'm going to reach to the oxygen mask, I'm going to put on the oxygen mask, I'm going to check the comms with my first officer. Then I'll set the altitude to a lower level. I'll pull on it. I'll set the heading, pull on the heading knob. I'll set the speed, pull on the speed knob. Then I'll make sure the thrust booster idles. I'll check the FMAs. I'll pull the speed brake lever. And then I'll recheck everything. I'll make sure that the first officer's done his items, seatbelt signs are on, emergency is declared, and so on. So that's what we do. And we do that regularly. Latest when we have our check rides in the sim, but ideally we do that regularly every couple of weeks. Again, just to make sure that we stay on top of these things. The issue we have is that luckily, so knock on wood, it happens extremely rare, which is good. Flaps 1, speed check, flaps 1. That's good, obviously, but because it happens so rarely, the risk of suddenly having that happen and then becoming kind of, clogged up and kind of, that rabbit in the headlight situation where you don't act because you are stunned. So regularly going through these procedures will mean that you're less likely to get startled. That's the word I'm looking for, right? To get startled. Right, we've got Cluster, blue, lock, blue, Cat 3 single right now because we only have one autopilot in, so now we've got Cat 3 dual, autopilot 1+2, no decision height is checked. Status just popped up, there's nothing new, so remove the status. Hey buddy, I did contact you because I know that you're controlling, but I didn't get an answer on time, so I'm currently going through the procedures. I don't think I have the time to come to Berlin now. Maybe next Tuesday, buddy. Are you on control next Tuesday? Then I will tell you now for sure that next week Tuesday I will come visit you on Batson. Next week as well. Okay, cool. Okay, buddy. Next week I'll definitely plan to come to Berlin next week. Fantastic. You were busy cooking. No worries. All good. All good. Right. One thing I want to add as well is these check rides, while we call them check rides, and of course you have to deliver, you know, a good performance. So you're still gonna fail your check ride if you mess up these you know, basic procedures, if you don't know your memory items, etc., etc. So, you know, it's still a check ride. However, they've kind of moved the atmosphere more into the region of training has priority. And so if you mess up a procedure, well, you know, you're going to get a second chance. You're going to try again to get it right. If the instructor kind of, you know, gets the idea, you know, there's something, he's lacking some knowledge on a certain topic, well, he can, you know, dive more into that and just refresh the memory again. So the basic idea, hey, forward, UDV. So the basic idea, obviously, the basic goal is to train for proficiency, and then have the pilots get out of the simulator with a good feeling, you know, that they've accomplished everything in a good manner, and that way they have a positive mindset to continue flying. If there's anything major, like I said, then you will fail. Flaps 2, speed check, flaps 2. For me, knock on wood, I've never failed a check ride. Do I get nervous? Yes, I do. Yeah, lacking a competency, exactly. So there's many competencies. How many are there? 9? 9 areas? I forgot how many areas. 10? There's so many areas, like, you know, like workload management, decision making, leadership, crew coordination, etc. So many areas that are being under evaluation, and of course, yeah, you have to be above a certain minimum. There's 9. Okay, I remember. It's 9. So you have to be above a certain minimum level, of course. And if you fail at any one of these, if you drop to below a certain level, below any of these competencies, yes, you will. Well, if you drop below that, yes, you will fail. If you lack in 2, then you can fail as well. So. Good, so 4,000 missed approach, auto land, like we said, speed is going to come managed here, here's coming down, flaps 3, speed check, flaps 3. And flaps 4, speed check, flaps 4, land checklist, economic landing, no blue. Yeah, look at that, 19 minutes after our decompression. Feels a lot longer, but yeah. And there's a thing, so let's say the instructor says, oh, you got some injured people in the back, they need quickly need medical attention. Well, you would have done the approach faster, and the difficult thing there is how fast did you fly the approach? You know, because you are going to risk not being established in time and then having to go around, which will then take a lot longer than if you had slowed down a bit earlier to get established in time. So it's kind of, you know, balance these things.
1,000.
1,000. Let's check we're stable. And yeah, like we said, it's going to be a low vis approach. RVR, let's say it's 400, 400, 400. We can go down to 75 meters here with Cat 3 Bravo. So no problem. Right, below 1,000 feet, if we get a warning or caution with the chime, or if we get ATC call, it's definitely go around. Otherwise, any cautions, warnings coming through the inhibition, we'll talk about it and then decide whether or not to continue or not. Okay, we've already got the approach lights inside, so not that bad.
400.
So now we look for the combined mode. Land, I'll check the runway track line or course line there, 346, that's correct.
300.
Now about 40 feet. Now the problem is, I hope the glide stuff doesn't go too low.
200.
Yeah, that's just a scenery issue, guys. It's one of those things just have to ignore that for now.
100.
Because it does follow the glide slope here.
50. 40.
Too low.
30.
Terrain.
20.
Flare.
10. Retard.
Retard. Roll out. And we've got reverse green spoilers. And right, great question, Hawkins. Hey. Oh, nice. So Hawkins, let me ask Tail West. I know the answer. I know how my company does it, but I wonder what Tail West says about that. Alright, auto breakers off. That's also a good comment, Tail West. I like that. So first of all, well, we pilots, we say fail, but Tail West is correct. Because if you fail a check ride, it's going to be unsatisfactory at some area. So an area that will need to be worked on. Alright, put autopilot off, obviously. Yeah. Now, I guess for the instructor, it's extremely difficult sometimes to distinguish between, you know, was it unsatisfactory because of the crew resource management or the crew working together? Hey MCK, welcome back. Or was it because, you know, you could say that there's literally just one of the pilots having, you know, lots of stuff there that were unsatisfactory. So, you know, the instructor is there to distinguish if necessary. So there may be cases where both of them will fail the check ride because it didn't work well together. However, if the instructor determines that it's more an issue with just one of the pilots, well, he can fail just one of the pilots. Good. We're going to do one more exercise here in the FENIX. We're doing RTO. And this is one of the mandatory things that we have to do. And it's either with an evacuation or without an evacuation. So the requirement is to show that you're capable of performing an RTO, and normally that is done in low-vis conditions. So let's do that. So right now we have that. Yeah, Hawkins, I'm happy that you're asking these questions. Again, you know, I'm streaming for you guys. I'm not streaming for myself. You know. Yeah, so MCK is stating the minimum RVR that we are allowed to take off with. However, that is a system or normally a aircraft limitation or a crew certification limitation. But you also have to check your minimas in the AOI because the airport may not have the equipment to provide low-vis operations all the way down to 125 meters. So let's say they don't have high-intensity runway centerline lighting there, or edge lighting not being high intensity, for example, or the spacing isn't correct. So not fulfilling these requirements. And then you may have a higher RVR requirement because of the airport not being up to that top level. So what we will do, we'll find the info, and so there's a section for the takeoff info. Now, we have to be very careful when we read through this. So we can see initially for category Charlie aircraft, so for us, it would be 125 meters, but there's going to be some ball nodes. So ball node 1, operators applying US ops specs, centerline required below 3 meters, approved HUD required below 150, for example, for the US ops. Now, number 2 says, with approved guidance system, Runways 35 left, 35 right for all categories, 75 meters. So I assume they refer to head-up guidance system or maybe infrared system, I don't know. It may even be reduced down to 75 meters. For us, we don't have that, so our aircraft lowest takeoff RVR minima is 125. Now, you would also have to check the NOTAMs. So maybe they will say high intensity runway centerline lights in up. Right? Then you're going to have to take a higher minimum. Right? So again, always differentiate between aircraft limitation, crew limitation. Oh yeah, and I could be limited because of experience. So when a captain is checked out and is allowed to then go on to normal line flying, it's up to 50 hours, for example, 50 flight hours, that he has a higher minimum RVR requirement for LVO. So again, it's a complicated topic, no doubt. But yeah, we pilots get the training for that. And you as passengers, you don't have to worry about it. Which is a good thing for you, I guess. So, let me try something really quickly. So, I'm just going to put in for the departure. We are going to do an RTO. I'm not going to tell you what it's going to be with. And again, it just serves the purpose of performing the actions, right? So I'm trying to refresh my memory on what I need to do. Oh yeah, oh sorry, yeah, that's here in the sim. I always do that. I always do that. It's 22 cost index and GG I put in there. What was that? Just lost my train of thought there. Oh yeah, the weights. So let's have a look here quickly. Let's make the aircraft nice and heavy. So mass and balance. So let's put that. Cargo, lots of fuel. Load the aircraft instant. So now we've got how much? 72 gross weight. Good God. 72 tons. And so zero fuel is 58.5 and 31.3. Yeah, okay, if I'm above the limit, don't worry about it. It's just for the RTO case. Just want to have a nice low acceleration there. So just insert that. Flap's going to be 1. Now I'm going to put 40 TAS and speeds 140, 145, 8. Right, let's see what kind of failures I can select here. And you guys know this. There are some A320s out there that have a HUD, yes. Again, it's operator specific. So let's see what we can program here. So I wonder. It's a nasty one. I don't know if it actually works here on takeoff. But if it is, it's a nasty one. I'm just gonna add another one, just in case. Oh, hang on. Oh, sorry, that's gonna be a bit late. No, sorry. Let's do that again. Yeah, because if it programs it as we go along, and it may sometimes, if I do that at too high speed, it may not activate in time. So let's try that. So let's try that. You see, from my experience, I remember some failures that I've been put through which are horrible. And Tail West, he's one of those, he's a very nice person, and just let me assure that he's a very nice person. But I'm sure he knows the most horrific failures that will scare living daylights out of pilots, so... Alright, I'll do one more thing here. Problem is, if I put several of these in, now let me just hold on. I'll just take that out. Okay, so we'll see. All right, let's have a go here. Let's see if that works out. I don't know if my scenario works or not, but we should see. So there. Good. So RTO. There's of course a flow chart for that as well. So. For the RTO, it's quick actions, obviously. So for the captain, he's got to be quick, get the thrust to idle, activate the reverse, and then make sure that the auto brake kicks in. That's also for the first officer to check. Now, at these conditions, the first officer is only allowed to do the takeoff if he has at least 200 meters RVR. So let's assume we have less than 100 or less than 200 meters RVR, then I have to do the takeoff. So the first officer has to monitor things like reverse, auto brake, spoilers. Well, spoilers will come out, but make sure that we have the right acceleration rate. If not, he has to call that out to me. Now, I have to be careful. I have to be careful not to tap the brakes because there are cases when captains accidentally kind of get startled by, I don't know, engine fire or something, and then actually tapping the brakes and then deactivating the RTO mode. Yes, so with an engine fire, we do use the reverse, AFERN. Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's try that. I'm not sure if it's gonna work, but we'll do so. So this 120 here, yeah, and done everything. So let's do takeoff. Yeah, RVRs were checked. Obviously, we've done everything according to the books. Oh, and I need to do the following, otherwise we won't get moving. This is one of the things I hope that FENIX fixes as well, so it doesn't have the chocks on all the time. Right, got Manflex 40 SRS auto thrust blue. Thrust set, obviously, and it was slow acceleration. Blimey, it's a heavy aircraft. Yeah, no runway. 100 knots checked. Oh! Reverse open, stop! Ooh, that had a big yaw moment there for a second. Right, spoilers. Oh, and... Blimey, what's happening? Engine 1 fail. Let's stop the aircraft first. Parking brake on. The co-pilot would do his call. He would say, whatever, one engine out, windmill 711, abort a takeoff, currently approximately midpoint of the runway. Request fire brigade immediately. And I would wait for that call, and I would say, attention crew on station, attention crew on station. Alright, reversers open for some reason. Disregard, we got engine 2 fire. Ecam actions. Alright, ATC notified, is notified. Cabin crew alerted, is alerted. Engine 2 master off. And that's not confirmed now. On the ground, the pilot monitoring just does that. Not sure why that comes on again, but there we go. Okay, so engine 2 fire, push button push. Again, not confirmed on the ground, just being pushed. And Agent 1 discharge, Agent 2 discharge. Again, no confirmation. Right. Okay, so ECAM actions are now gone. Fire is out. Engines shut down. So now comes the question. So we're going to say stop ECAM. And now for me as the captain, I have to evaluate whether or not we go into the emergency evacuation checklist. Now, why don't we go into that automatically? Well, we used to, because we used to be able to stop the checklist at any point. We're not supposed to do that anymore. Exactly. So if I call out EMA or AVAC, start procedure, and we'll do that by a paper checklist, the procedure will start, and the problem is we're going to shut down both engines. Now, if I shut down both engines, look what happens. Right, it gets dark. Right, it gets quiet and it gets dark in the cabin. So we're on battery power now. Now we still can communicate with the ATC on COM1, but I am shutting out a lot of my sensors. All right, so now I'm pretty much blind on what's happening. I'm relying on the cabin crew to tell me what's going on, and so to start that whole process, you have to be sure that an aviation is very likely to happen. Now, exactly. So we would take out the flashlight in the cockpit, and we can actually put on the dome light. At least one will illuminate. Ah, it does that here as well. Nice. Okay, so, but yeah, flashlights out for sure. Yeah, poor Carrot. So, and we go through the whole procedure until we get to the checkpoint. Evacuation required or not required. Right, so we read through everything, the whole checklist, until we get to that point. Now, I, as a captain, have to make the decision now. Required or not required? Well, let's say the fire brigade is looking for us. All right, I'm relying on the calls from the cabin. Yeah, and then let's say I decide, because I don't have any infos, and I kind of feel uncomfortable, and then I say, passenger evacuation, and yeah, then we have some injured people, and then maybe it wasn't necessary because the fire was out. There was no real issue anymore. Yeah. Right. Let's say, for example, we did have a fire on the right-hand side, which didn't go out. Then I would probably call out passenger evacuation, keep closed right exits. All right, passenger evacuation, keep closed right exits. Why? Well, if there's a fire still ongoing here, the fire brigade, once it's at the aircraft, will start with the extinguishing. Now, if they see the chutes come out, the doors opening, chutes come out, they will stop, because they're going to expect people to go down the chutes. So they're going to stop the firefighting. All right, you may still have a burning aircraft there, and passengers evacuating on the right-hand side and maybe getting injured. Right, maybe we've got a fuel leak. All kinds of things can happen. So I have the option to say keep closed right exits or left exit, depending on where I think the fire is. And so evacuation will only happen on the left-hand side, and the fire brigade can still extinguish the fire. The wind factor, definitely. That's something, let's say you have 30 knots crosswind. Let's say this is on fire and the wind is coming from the right. It blows a smoke to the left. Yeah, not the optimum conditions, but hey, I mean, if the aircraft's on fire, you're going to evacuate. Absolutely. Good, I want to do one more thing. I want to do some engine out procedures. Airbus actually recommends for all nighttime takeoffs with a dim dome light as well. Okay, interesting, MCK. Yeah, MCK. I would. Well, I don't know. It has to do with psychology, and I hope that my company has, rigorously thought about this. Why we say keep closed instead of evacuate on the left. It's just maybe some other companies do that. They tell their captains to say. Thank you, Taylor West. Thanks for hopping in. Yeah, always nice to see you, Taylor West. Good night to you. Right, we're going to take the X-plane version now in Toliss 319. Yeah, I don't know, MCK, but my company has that procedure. We will say keep closed. We can even just name one door. We can say keep closed one left or keep closed, 3 right or 4 right, whatever. So lots of options for us. Let's see. Let's try that. Now, the cool thing is I can use Active Sky X-plane, and I can make it nice and foggy as well. Oh yeah, what I'm going to do first of all, I'll do a visual pattern, because that's something we're going to do tomorrow as well. So after we've done our scenario, and we go into the maneuvering part, the maneuver training, as it's called. Pod, that's always an issue. We've seen it a lot lately, that passengers don't listen to the crew and do stuff that completely endanger, the life of everyone on board. Like, for example, take out their luggage from the overhead compartments, or opening doors on their own. Yeah, so that's always a risk. There's not much that can be done about it. So we'll use real-world weather. Lol. My rendering options are too high. X can't run it. Yeah. As if. Is that loud for you guys? Hang on. Sounds. There we go. Yeah, that's better. Okay, cool. So, real-world conditions in Malpensa are QNH 1011. The wind is 200 at 7. So, visual pattern, I'll do a left-hand pattern, obviously, for me, because I'm sitting on the left-hand side, so I can see the runway better. And, yeah, visual pattern, practice first of all. Now, again, it's just to get the feel of the aircraft, because every simulator does feel different. Well, Tom, yeah, I mean, I agree. It may just be a bit of a German thing, really, that we always say, you need to find people for that. I don't know. You can always hope for, people being sensible. Maybe a bit of a naive thinking that way, but that's just the way it is. Right, so we've got 58 tons. Barrel ref. Correct. So let's change that 1011. Cool. Visual pattern. So how do I fly a visual pattern? There's a couple of things that help you with that. So I'll show you the tricks that we have. Are we 3-5 left or right? Left. So 3-5 left. Don't anything else. By looking outside. 1. We'll do flex 44, and we'll do the pattern in 2,300 feet. Why? Because the airport is in 700 feet. So let's do that. 2,300 feet, fantastic, and we'll do, I don't know, one... Actually, let's uplink the takeoff data. How about that? +1 request. Endangering the safety of flight crew and yeah, again, Tom, one thing is to have a law. The other one is to actually use it and have people prosecuted. So let's do flex takeoff. Insert that. Bam. Love it. Franz, do you think Toliss a bit more accurately as far as movement? Well, yeah, so let's see. Do you prefer non-abnormals in the FENIX than in the Toliss? For training purpose, Toliss seems to have improved. Okay, so Evamo, for ECAM stuff, I'm sorry to say, or not sorry to say, but I would say the FENIX is still better for my purposes. The flight warning computer standards these days is different even to the FENIX in some regards, but all in all, for just the ECAM stuff, I will practice like I've just done, and that's just demonstrated. For hand flying and engine out, for example, yeah, I'll use the Toliss, because that is more realistic in the Toliss. Yeah. Now, cool. One thing I do, and when I fly visual pattern, I will put the ROSE mode to nav, and the range to 10 miles. Why? Because that way I get a 2.5 mile circle there. And that's actually where I want to be on a downwind. And that way I can fly a nice base and final. Good, so 2,300 feet, let's do this. Visual pattern. So initially we start with flight directors, and then I'll have them switched off, put the bird on. Alright, takeoff. Manflex 66 SRS, and runway, and all thrust is blue. It's a beautiful day here in Milano. Right. 100 knots is checked. P1, rotate. These sounds are new. MCK, I know what you mean with the sounds being different. Enough. No, MCK, that's tailwind, Winde Kalme from behind. Right, flag directors off, bird on. Auto thrust off. We'll put this about 70%, lower the nose. And we'll start our left turn. We'll speed up, obviously. Pull speed, select 185. Flaps will remain on 1. And we try not to get distracted by the beautiful scenery with the Alps in the background. So now I try to get standard values for pitch and power. So it should be around about 58% or something like that. 50, 60%, we'll see. Trying to level off here. So here the bird helps with that. So trying to get the bird onto the horizon. And then I'll try to fine-tune the pitch and power values so that we get a nice stable path. So you can see now, from the turn, I wanted to have the runway at round about 2.5 miles. And I'm going to put the track to 166. And I'll try to get the track line on the 166. So wind is a bit from the right, not much though. So a little bit less thrust. So 58% is actually not bad, my initial thought. Now, since I'm a bit closer than I want to be, I'm going to just get the track line a bit right of the outbound heading. Next thing to look for is the threshold, because we do need to start timer at the threshold. So we're almost a beam. So beam now. Literally no tailwind. So we'll go 45 seconds outbound. Gonna put the thrust back a bit. Flaps 2, speedless check. Flaps 2, activate approach phase, obviously. 1011. Rest we'll leave as is. Speed managed. So about 45% thrust. And then we fly outbound. And one thing to help you guys with, and that's what I'll do tomorrow in the simulator as well, I'm going to put Lima India Mike Charlie 35 left, so that I have a distance info to the threshold. 40 seconds, 42, gears coming down, flaps 3, speedless check, flaps 3. So nice 25-degree bank turn. We don't need to descend aggressively yet. I'm just going to use the excess speed to slow down a bit more. Let's keep the nose up, flaps full, speedless check, flaps full. Add a bit of thrust. And once we're on the base heading, I'll roll out. Continue slowing down. Here's the base heading. I'll check the runway. See if I can pick up some PARPI lights. No, don't see anything yet. Only little tailwind. Currently 3.5 miles, so I think the altitude looks good. 1 mile off the center line. So now I'm going to try to...
1,000.
1,000.
Speed.
Wow, what happened to this? Was that just a wind gust there? That was a bit weird. So let's look at 3 miles, 1,000 feet or 900 feet, so...
Speed.
Wow. That requires a lot of thrusts, guys, sorry. We're not that heavy, are we? It's one of those things that just doesn't feel right here at the moment. So 2 miles, 600 feet should be good. Yeah, I could pick up 1 white, 3 red, so landing checklist, economy landing, no blue. Now on path. 2 white, 2 red. So I'm going to try to get standard values here.
500.
There we go. On center line.
400.
Okay. Yeah.
300.
I don't know why it kind of... Oh, okay, now we've got tailwind though. Maybe it just kicked in at the point where we turned. So 8 knots tailwind is copied.
$100.
Yeah, just looking at the touchdown zone now. Aim point.
50. 40.
Looking
30,
beyond that.
20. Retard. 10. 5.
Come on. Slow down. Spoilers. Reverse green. No auto brake. Manual brakes. Hey, Albico! Buenas noches. How are you doing? Alrighty. So, quick reset. What we'll do now is... let's do... File, load flight. Let's do that again. And this time, though, I'll load a special weather file. So, conditions, weather control, custom weather. Load. And so I did try to get some foggy conditions here. Ah, there we go. Well, that was quick. I love how the FPS tanks. 44 FPS. Because of what? No, we're not going to do a visual circuit. We're going to do an engine failure this time, obviously, and we'll do a return. Let's say we still have 200 meters, so we can use 50-200 for the Cat 3 single. So engine out pattern followed by single engine And then maybe I will have to go around as well. Mike Charlie. Yeah, I noticed that as well. Sometimes the FPS here, depending on the weather situation with the clouds, it's just really, really bad here in X-Plane 12. Which is a shame, but... right, this time... do that. Cool. So, again, we are on 3-5 left. Not going to do any departure route. There is a special engine up procedure that I want to do. Let me find that. So, where is it? I'll only check my real world. So takeoff. Oh no, I didn't want to do that. Hang on, let's do flex takeoff. There we go. Flex 67 now. 135, 135, 138. Brilliant. So let's have a look at the procedure. 35 left. Engine out is 3 miles. And that's the thing. So whenever we have, you know, the standard engine out procedure is just straight ahead 25 miles. All good. But we often have airports in the sim where we have non-standard engine up procedures. And why? Because you have to monitor the flight track as well. So not only, you know, straight out, but maybe a distance or so on. So the procedure says straight ahead to 3 miles, Mike, Papa. So I'm going to put that in there. And now you see why we actually draw these things in. So we're going to proceed straight out until we hit that circle. And then we go left to Nelap. Because there's higher terrain coming up towards the north. Now there's Nelap. Right, so that's the engine out procedure. Now we're going to try to remember straight out 3 miles, Mike, Papa. So let me put that here as well, Mike, Papa. And then usually we get an engine failure with damage, or sometimes without damage, depends. But obviously just after V1, because that's the most critical situation. So we'll have engine, doesn't matter which one, engine 1, 2. We'll have fail with damage. We'll do at indicated airspeed, and that's going to be at 140, let's say. And that's it. Cool. Right. So, what's going to be an important thing? Of course, aviate, navigate, communicate, right? So, initially, we don't do any items until 400 feet anyways. So, we concentrate on keeping the aircraft stable in flight. And there's one criteria for us in the check flight, and that is the following. So when we proceed straight out and recover, we have to remain within the boundaries of the runway. Why? Because the engine out opposite clearance path starts at the end of the runway. So if you deviate off the runway prior to reaching the end of the runway, you are in a sector which is not covered by opposite clearance. I mean, you may be safe, but who knows? You may not be safe. So we know that there's antennas and all kinds of stuff there, or maybe waiting aircraft, right? So that's why you want to be over the threshold. Now, if the weather is good and we have good visibility, we can simply just lean, go up a bit or lean forward and look at the end of the runway. Now, in low vis conditions, We don't have that. Right, so we do rely on the nav display. All right, let's do this. So I've not done, well, I've done an engine failure not too long ago in the Toliss. So let's see how that goes. Now I know that depending on the wind change. So we've got Manflex 67S as runway autothrust blue. So hopefully the wind change will not mess the aircraft or mess up the aircraft speed too much. Right, thrust set. .100 knots. P1, rotate. Alright, there's the engine failure. Lift off, try to take the pitch, pause the climb, gear up. And then I'm adding rudder. You can see the I'm pulling now even more rudder. There, we're trying to get that centered, although I know it's not correct with the centering. So now I'm going to add... No, let's try to get this correct. There we go. Now I'm going to add right rudder to trim the aircraft. 400 feet coming up. And then once I've done enough rudder trimming, not yet though, still needs more rudder trim, I can activate the autopilot, pull heading runway track. So we have to correct a little bit to the right there. Now, Toga consider. Anything that speaks against Toga power? No. Right, let's put that to Toga power, man Toga. And 3 miles. Right, so then we go. Engine 1 fail. That is confirmed. ECAM actions. Engine start. Selector ignition. Ignition. Thrust lever number 1 idle. Again, put my finger onto the number 1 lever. I say confirm. And the pilot monitor will say number 1 confirmed. Idle. If no relight after 30 seconds, well, it's not going to happen. So engine master 1 off. Confirm. Number 1 confirmed. Off. Now here's 3 miles. Remember, guys? Right turn to nail up. Very important. We need to stay within the obstacle clearance limit. Right, continue. Engine 1, by engine fire 1, push button push. Confirm. Number 1 confirmed. Pushed. Wow, the bank angle. Jesus Christ. LOL.
Sink rate. Pull up.
I'm full.
Pull
Right.
up. Pull up. Pull.
Right, I'm full. I was full right stick there. Yeah. I never had that before, so nothing I can do. That's simulator related. So I had full right stick there when I took over manually. It would not respond. So I'm sorry, Toliss. Yeah, big no-no. Now, even though I noticed the autopilot going above limit, and again, I took full right aileron with manual flight, it doesn't respond. So something's wrong with the thrust, amount of thrust coming from the engine and the aerodynamics. It's a shame. But that's how the initial recovery would go, and I don't think I have the time to reset. It's 10 to 10, right? So we don't want to do the 1 engine out. So it's a shame. I can't do anything about that, guys. 5-minute restore? What you mean? Well, the problem is that the engine out again. But okay, I'll tell you what, guys. The only thing I can do is I can do this manual flight. So we won't use the autopilot. We'll try manual flight with that. Although I'm still not sure if that's going to work. How about a 320 Neo? I don't think it's going to help, Tishka. I think it's... I mean, we can try. See if that's any better.
Good night, Black Box.
Ja, Lee. Mach's gut. So let's do that. Start your flight. Oh, sorry. Where are you? Lee, I didn't catch that. So, yeah, Easter holiday, right? So where are you? No, Brennot. No. It was a special engine out sit. So that's that. We should have turned left. That was all correct. It's just the autopilot just couldn't keep the bank with the engine failure. So I'm not sure if that's going to be any better here in the 320 Neo. What we'll do, though, we're not going to use Toga power for the recovery. We'll leave it in reduced thrust. And let's see if that works here. So for is this a live? No, it's a crazy mind. I'm trying to do some practice, engine out practice. Unfortunately, the Toliss surprised me by not responding the way I would normally expect the aircraft to respond. So I'm going to put this a little bit less zero fuel weight. So that's that. Flight plan. Departure 35 left. Insert. Performance. Takeoff uplink. Let's do flaps 1. And there we go. And then 4,000. I'm going to put Mike Papa in there. Performance. Uplink. Receive takeoff data. Let's do flex again. So that's set. Then I want to do one more thing here for the engine out procedure. 3, 4, 6. Oops. Hang on. I don't have the time to go to Ibiza now. I'm sorry. I know you said it's a joke, but so 3, 4, 6. Yeah, Rocco, the thing is, though, the problem is the following. It's not necessarily Toliss at fault. It could be the aerodynamics in X-plane not being correct with the asymmetry and so on. So it's hard to pinpoint now from this who's at fault. Good. We've set the aircraft up. We'll program the engine failure again, and hopefully this time it will work. Now let me try to fail engine 2, because maybe that way it won't bank that much. Just a thought. 43, is that correct? Yeah. Cool. Let's press apply now. Cool. That's done, that's done. That. Put the lights on. And then Ali. Oh no, you're in the Maldives? I am envious. I am so envious. Blimey, Maldives. Yeah, pictures please. Hey Geep, how you doing? Man, I've never been to the Maldives. Pitch trim mismatch. Let's have a look. What's the trim? Should be 25 CG. Let's have a look here. Oh, that's up 1.7 or something. There we go. Up 1.4. There we go. Now it's happy. Cool. Let's go. Let's try this again. Ooh, these sounds. Lee looking forward to it. Takeoff. Manflex 73, SRS, runway auto thrust. I'm also already going to pop this out here so I can trim the aircraft. Alright, thrust set. That's 100 knots. V1, rotate. There's the engine failure, pitching for about 12 degrees up. Positive rate, gear up. Right, well, I need full left rudder, which is so unusual. Normally, I don't need that much rudder. Right, 12 degrees is a good pitch value. I'm going to just try and nail that here. Can release the rudder a bit more. There we go. Full heading, runway track. Autopilot is on. Let's see if the autopilot this time manages better. Now, I'm not going to use turbo power on the rest of the engine, but it does feel a bit better this time. Cool. 400 feet are passed, so engine 2 fail. Engine start, select the ignition. Ignition, thrust lever 2 idle, confirm. Number 2 confirmed. Idle, if no relight after 30 seconds. It won't relight because it's got no rotation. Engine master 2 off, confirm. Number 2 confirmed. If damaged, yeah, it's damaged. Alright, so no rotation anymore. Engine 2 push button push. Confirm. 2 confirmed. Push. Heading looking good. Not 3 miles yet. And then after 2 seconds, 1 second, agent 1 discharge. Discharge. Stop ECAM. 3 miles. Let's concentrate on flying the aircraft, and the acceleration is going to be in 2,300 feet. Right, 3 miles. Turning left to nail up. Right, I'm going to go manual flight here, guys. Just so that I can fly this manually. I'm going to level off here. So we're going to push the vertical speed to 0. It's a little bit better, at least manual flight. It does feel as if it's all right. So let me just put that there. Now I'm going to put the aircraft on a downward heading here already, so that we land quicker. So we're still accelerating. Yeah, top descent reached. That's a joke. Yeah. Good. If no damage, engine 2 considered disregard. We set as damaged, so clear engine 2. And engine 2 shut down. If no fuel leak, let's have a look again. So this time this engine is running using more fuel. That's good. So no fuel leak. We'll monitor that. TCAS mode selector TA. And then cross bleed shut. All right. I'm pretty sure that doesn't happen on our systems there. It is shut. Avoid icing conditions. We'll do that. Flaps 0. Speed is checked. Flaps 0. I'm gonna wait until we get to green dot. I'm gonna pull on the speed knob. We'll set green dot speed. Set the other engine to MCT. So I'm going to go back forward speed. So there we go, MCT. And then we're going to continue climb 4,000 feet. So thrust MCT, open climb 4,000. Although we'll do a quick return here. So we'll say 3,000 here. Well, it says icing conditions because in this configuration right now, with the cross bleed shut, you won't have wing anti-ice on the right-hand side. So if you switch on wing anti-ice now, only one wing will be de-iced or anti-iced. And that, of course, can lead to an asymmetry, so you don't want that. Now, there is a fix for this. So you could switch off one pack and then open the cross bleed. And that way you can actually use wing anti-ice. But yeah, so it's just a warning. You have to be careful with that. So let's go 35 left. No star, no via insert. We'll do a Cat 3, assuming that we can do that. Just check that very quickly. Approach 35 left, Cat 3 Zulu, so we do have that. And the minimum is Cat 3 single, guys, because we only have one electric generator running. Although we can quickly go through the rest of the items here. So avoid ice conditions, clear engine 2, air pack 2 off, yeah, is checked. Then we've got land as of amber, we'll do that. Hydraulic checked, electrics, let's start the APU. Well, I think so, Mr. Weird. After the initial kind of, startle effect, I would probably initially have the thought like, oh my god, why does it happen to me? But then I think because we've trained for this situation so often, I do think that yeah, we pilots do remain very calm. So 3, 10, and 5. Again, we have to use radio altitude 50 feet. And we need 200 meters RVR. We're going to go with config 3 for the landing. It's single engine. Right, so ELIC is checked. Clear ELIC. Bleed is checked. Clear bleed. And status, yeah, we'll go through that. We're not going to restart anything. We started the APU. Cat 3 single only, as I said. Landing system procedure is applied. We're good to land. And INUP systems, wing anti-ice, Cat 3 dual, engine 2 bleed, pack 2, Gen 2, and yellow Gen 2 pump. All checked. Remove status, ECAM actions completed. Oh, that's a very good point, actually, MCK. Yeah, 320s now in a Neo. Let me see if we're allowed to use in a Neo Cat 3. Now, if I'm not sure, I would do Cat flaps full. That's a good point, actually. So, LVO. You see, that's why I practice these things, because there's so many fine things sometimes that you can come across when you're not doing that too often. And then, yeah, we'll see. We'll check that. Hold on. Really quickly. All right, let's proceed direct to ECPOP. For the final fix here, insert NAF. Approach phase is active. Well, that's so funny with the top ascent reached. Blimey. India Mike Alpha ILS is checked. Oh yeah, I know, Tishka, that's a question I remember. Yeah, I remember that question. Yeah. It's still there. Lol. Yeah, I'm going to take... Now, I haven't found the limitation info just yet on the Neo 320, but I'm going to have to look up on that. But since I'm not 100% sure, yeah, we'll revert back to config full. Because the 390 and 321, definitely you can do Cat 3, config 3 with those. The 320 COs, they're only allowed flap full. for the low vis approaches. Right, speed managed. Flaps 1, speed checked, flaps 1. So we got lol. Right, it's got the ILS indicated. I've got the approach phase active. Come on, there we go. So now we got autopilot 1 plus 2 lock star, Cat 3 single, all good. Yeah, so the thing is, the LAPA MCK, the LAPA gives me flaps 3 option. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to check the limitations of that, because if that's the case, that you're not allowed to have config full on the NEOs for the LVO, flaps 2 is checked, and we have to put that into the system to have that taken out. Ah, MCK. Let's have a look here. Right, 319, 320, 321, and 320 Neos are allowed config full.
2000.
And config 3. They're both. Wow. I'll just so that you believe me, MCK, I'll send you a link or a screenshot of that book. So it is allowed to go config. Flaps 3, speed checked. Flaps 3. So flaps 4, speed checked. Let's get the power up. Wow, the yaw. Oh god. So status is checked. Remove status. Landing checklist. ECMAMO landing no blue. So we've got Cat 3 single.
1000.
On 1000 is checked. Stable. Right, so the 320 old versions, the Sharklets are only config full, but Neo config 3 as well. But it's a good thing, MCK, I'm happy for your question, because I didn't know that off by heart, and I should do. So now I've refreshed my memory on that, which is cool. Right, so 50
400.
feet, because you have a minimum.
$300.
Right, land.
$200.
100 above.
100.
Oh, look at that, right at minimums.
50.
Minimum.
Continue.
40. 30. 20. 10. Retard. 5.
Alright, flare, roll out. Spoilers. I'm just going to leave reverse off here. Let the aircraft settle down. Do its thing. That's the order bit low. No, so, well, you mean autopilot restrictions? No, the autopilot restrictions not from airport. The airport will give you the option to fly Cat 2 or 3 approaches. So you have to look at your aircraft certification to check if you can land automatically. But that's a different topic. Cool. All right, so we landed back, single engine, all good. Happy with that. Guys, thank you so much. interesting failures today. Hope you enjoyed it, and yeah, I hope I gave you some insights on what we really what pilots have to go through the check flights. And thanks for all the questions. So we had some great questions today, very enjoyable. And then, if you like, we'll be back in about 10 minutes' time for the One Engine Out Norway tour. Continuing on that tour. Rocco, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Right. Thank you so much for all the support, guys. Thanks for all the resubs. Much appreciated. And sorry for the late call out. So, the Flying Frog, I'm sorry for the late call out. Thank you for the raid. Big shout out to the Flying Frog. Buddy, I have to go. Maybe next week, but we'll give you a fire indication engine 1. Oh, you mean like for 2 engine out or 2? Yeah, yeah. Again, yeah, we try to keep things somewhat realistic. Cool. Thank you so much, everyone. Yeah, like I said, 10 minutes back in Max Flight Sim for the One Engine Out tour with the Cessna 414. And thanks again, my dear moderators. Thanks for looking over the chat. It was very busy today, very active. Thank you for keeping it clean. And I'll see you again soon, guys. Thank you so much. Here comes the outro.